Thank you for all joining us here to pay tribute to our City of Bellflower outgoing mayor, Dan Coops, and let the record reflect that all members of the City Council are in attendance. This is actually a business meeting, a fun one. This evening we'll honor Dan Coops for his many achievements and outstanding leadership during the past year, and once again we find ourselves in a year unlike any other. Mayor Dan Coops guided the City of Bellflower effectively and efficiently. To begin the ceremony, we're going to start with an invocation that'll be given by Pastor Mushan Shannon and the Pledge of Allegiance by Larry Weage. Please come forward. Hey.
Exactly like that before, but it'll work. Every time it changes it. Hey, it's all good.
And I'm not even drinking tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The proper adjustment. Yes. It's so delightful to be in your presence this evening, and I just recognize that it's the easiest way, perhaps, to be biblical without even reading the Bible or honoring, even being aware of what the contents happen to be by doing this particular thing, is by giving honor to whom honor is due. Yeah. And by virtue of that, what makes it ever more pleasurable, I'll even go as far as to say delightful, is when you're giving it and it is earned, it's deserved, and you've earned it. When you're blood, sweat, and tears, it all is a wise investment of a moment such as this, where you're just receiving a slight return on your investment of all that you do for our city. So with that, I definitely ask God for the power of his presence and the presence of his power to be in our midst, and that this would be a good thing, recognizable to the extent that it will be like the gift that keeps on giving for the benefit of all concerned, because we all want the best for Bellflower. Join me if you would, please. Thank you. Almighty God, the creator of everyone and everything, even for those that don't even recognize you as such. You're so magnificent, awesome, splendid, and I thank you for being able to observe some of your handiwork. And our mayor, who is now making his departure from his particular function to all that he's done for our city, and we trust that he will continue to do going forward. But I ask that you bless him, and I ask that what he has accomplished will be certainly honored tonight, but also may what he has done, may he do it, treat it like an alley-oop, so to speak, so someone can do a slam dunk, the mayor that is going to be in that place. Or we can also say perhaps with the upcoming Super Bowl, may it be like a handoff that will result in multiple touchdowns. And yes, why not? So we pray for your blessing to be upon him richly in our time this evening together. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, would you please stand? The flag is here. Would you please face it? Place your right hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you both, Pastor Moshan and Larry. How do you say it? Moshe? Oh, Moshan. Okay. I'm working on it. My apologies. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for you guys being a special part of this program. I would like to share some details about Mayor Coops. his history, not only here in Bellflower, but including all the appointments and leadership roles that this man had during his time as mayor. Dan has been a part of Bellflower community for many years. He began his service as a planning commissioner in 1989. Now, I know there's some people that probably haven't been born till, oh, we have a council member then yet, but served on the planning commission for 18 years. Dan was first elected to serve on the city council in 2009. Since then, he has served as our mayor, mayor pro tem for 4 times, and now he's on his 4th term right now, just finishing up the 4th term as mayor. This past November, and served another 4-year term on the city council. Dan's history in public service does not end there. For this past year, he was also the primary delegate for Los Angeles County City Selection Committee. And let me tell you, take that one real serious, because it's one of those you go and you go to like 6 meetings to get 1 vote. Because you have to have everybody show up, because it's a weighted vote, population per city, and there's 88 cities, if I'm correct. So it's a real tough, right, Dan? So you might go for a meeting and it don't get done, and you just wasted 2 or 3 hours. But anyway, he's a primary delegate during his year for the sanitation districts, and Bellflower is fortunate enough to be in 3 of the districts, 2, 3, and 18. An alternate delegate also he was for the League of California Cities. And then also an alternate delegate for the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, formerly known as COG. A little about Dan on a personal level. Dan is married to Judy, and they have 3 children, Jared, Travis, and Brent. He is a dedicated family man and spends much of his time with his wife, 3 sons, and grandchildren. He enjoys reading classics. He enjoys reading, and he likes classic trucks. Or was it classifieds? And spending his quality time with his grandkids, and as he's relatively new at the grandparent portion of it, and spends a lot of time, and he comes up. Everybody knows Dan's with the stories, right? He's starting to bank those grandkid stories, so he's going to have some new information coming out, right, Dan? Oh, where was I? We know Dan's family was extremely proud of him as his role as mayor of the city of Bellflower, and we want to thank each of you, especially Judy, because we know that your spouse, your wife, is a very important part of making you successful and making you shine as mayor. Judy was supporting Dan in the efforts in the past year while he was mayor. Judy, as a token of our appreciation, I'd like to present you with this bouquet of roses. Hopefully Dan has given you as many roses over your... It'll be my turn for long. But yeah. As mayor, Dan was involved in many community events, including ribbon cuttings, grand openings. He continues to promote local business and the development of Bellflower, Better Place. I think all of you can agree that Bellflower has changed, and it has changed under Dan's watch. Some of the many accomplishments the Mayor Coops has completed or was part of over the last year include the completion and purchase of the Chamber of Commerce building. I didn't know it was the Chamber of Commerce building, but it's a good name for it. I like that. As Dan tells stories, I'm in training with Dan with stories because I'm kind of a few years behind him. I remember when on that property is where Crocker Bank was. Am I right? Yep. Crocker Bank. And before that, there was a Santa Claus there, and as I was a youngster, that's when my parents would take me on the Santa Claus, and they would be on like a wagon or something and hay bales and whatever, but that was a long time ago. But that's what I remember, and I like to bring around and remember certain things like that. Also, the completion and purchase of the Bellflower Post Office. And then, so the city owns the post office under his watch. Awarded a new contract to the Building and Safety Service that we have here in-house. We contract out for those services. Also, we've increased the Southwest Patrol, our private security force that takes care of our parks and whatnot throughout the city. Approved the solid waste contract with CR&R for our trash contract for our residents and commercial buildings. More recently, Dan led the veteran event at our wonderful Veterans Memorial this past November over here at Library Gardens Park. There were countless letters and resolutions, emails sent on the behalf to advocate Bellflower and the residents. Implementation of new implications of new incentives and special events and holiday programs, and more were all done under Dan Coop's watch. A majority initiative was approved under Dan's leadership, the passage of our city charter ballot measure. This ballot measure was adopted by the voters this past November with a 77-cent approval. As long as I've been voting, hardly anything gets that kind of percentage when it passes. We live such in a divided world that the majority seem to can't make up its mind, but it sure came to the plate this time and pushed Bellflower into a special place. Thank you, Dan. The significant decision to allow Bellflower to become a charter city, providing the community with enhanced local control and improved ability to address the needs of the Bellflower residents and businesses. Furthermore, Dan hosted the Bellflower annual State of the City presentation and the 2024 Bravo Awards at the Main Event Center, along with the annual Christmas tree lighting here in our downtown this December. Surprisingly, this is a condensed list of Dan's numerous achievements during the tenure of his mayor, and truly was a year unlike any other for his leadership. Now it's time, and we would like to salute the success with a brief video in tribute from some of his friends and family.
Well, Dan, what another ride. All I can say, you've been by my side for 16 years, and I've been by your side as Mayor Pro Tem. And you did a great job, and we all talk about our wives. Your wife Judy is a big part, just like my wife Dawn at times. And I want to let you know that you took the city again to another level it hasn't seen before. We're in a good position now. We can think outside the box and continue to make this city grow. It's a great being with you and working with you, and I really feel that this city has excelled in ways that it hasn't before. And from my heart, thank you very much for what you do and being part of the team. It works. Thanks again.
Hi, Dan. Sunny here. Congratulations on your term as mayor, and thank you for your service to our city of Bellflower. I know that there's going to be a lot of things said about your term as mayor. Very successful, especially in the area of public safety. Crime rate is down, finances are up. But I just want to point out a couple of things that are very impactful as far as I'm concerned. The city acquired a number of properties, and this is very significant as far as I'm concerned, because this will dictate actually what we can put in those properties. The city can control what goes into those properties. That's huge. The other thing that I want to point out is Emprendedores program. The program is, I think, sometimes overlooked, but I think that it is very successful, especially with the opening of the storefront of one of the graduates of the program. To me, that spells success. That's something that the city can continue. And who can forget about the 605 All-Star Band? That was really enjoyable. When they practiced on the streets of Bellflower, and on to Lakewood. It was something to be remembered. So again, Dan, congratulations on your successful term as mayor, and thank you for your service. I look forward to continuing to work with you as we better the city of Bellflower and its residents. Thank you, my friend.
Hi, Dan. It's Wendy. I just wanted to say congratulations on your year as mayor. You did an amazing job. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the mentoring you did for me, just guiding me throughout the year. You're an amazing mayor. You are an even better Bellflower historian, even if it's unofficial. Just again, thank you so much, and I really enjoy being on council with you. I hope you have a great night tonight as this honors you.
Hey Dan, disculpa que llegué tarde a este evento, como siempre, pero aunque sea estoy aquí y listo para trabajar. Just want to say what a great year you had as a mayor. You're always on top of everything when you're the mayor. And from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank you for always being available and accessible. Your leadership really shows in our conversations and your wisdom. Thank you for always believing in me from the moment you appointed me to the Parks and Rec Commission. Just really excited to continue to work with you for this next 4 years, and let's make a continued difference in our community. Appreciate you. God bless you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mayor Coops. On behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department and the men and women proudly serving the city of Bellflower, we'd like to thank you for your great leadership and your continued support for public safety. Your leadership, along with City Council, has made the city a safer place to live, visit, and shop. I want to thank you for everything you do for our community.
Mayor Coops from Los Angeles County Fire Department, Fire Station 23 and Fire Station 98. We want to thank you so much for a wonderful year. Thank you for your attention and your support. We understand that this is your 4th term, and we are so grateful. We look forward to many more to come. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dan, Jeff Smith here from Chamber of Commerce. We just want to thank you for what a great job you've done as mayor. Your dedication to the businesses and people of Bellflower, and how you support the chamber and attending our ribbon cuttings and all of our events. It's been a great pleasure working with you, and we hope that we can work again in the future with you and keep up the great things that you're doing. We really do appreciate it. And again, thank you from the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce.
Hey Dad, it's Jared here, as you probably recognize. Congratulations for your year as mayor. The city's looking great. Some really cool improvements, and congratulations on your year, and looking forward to another 4 years on council.
Hi, congratulations on doing a wonderful job as mayor. You had a lot more time to spend with it, and it showed. Keep the city moving in a positive direction, and congratulations on your new term as well. Love you.
Hey Dad, it's Brent, Lindsay, and Lane saying congratulations on another great year and run as mayor. Really proud of you, and we look forward to all the many great things that you're going to be doing for the city going forward. We love you, and congratulations.
Congratulations, we love you. Say we love you, blow my kiss. Mwah.
Congratulations, Grandpa, on being the mayor of Bellflower. This past year, we love living in Bellflower.
We love you, Grandpa.
What a year we had with Mayor Dan Coops. I know serving as mayor for the 4th time was a great honor for you, Dan, as it was for all of us. And you really did an amazing job leading the city council and the city of Bellflower. Thank you for the wonderful leadership, and we're really proud of what you have done. Now I want to ask my council colleagues to join me here on the podium, because we're going to make some presentations to the outgoing mayor, and Dan, you're invited too. So, Sonny, and then you, Sonny, Wendy, and then Victor.
You guys can just stand.
Dan, on behalf of the City Council and city staff and the citizens here in our community, we congratulate you on an excellent and successful year as the 67th mayor of our great city. These next presentations and tokens of our gratitude as we congratulate you for the past year of being mayor. I would like to present you with your gavel and plaque with an inscription that says, Mayor Coops, in recognition of your outstanding leadership and diligent efforts to improving the quality of life and financial stability of the city of Bellflower for 2023-2024.
Go ahead.
Oh, he's right there.
Yeah. Right there. I think he was ready. Let's give it another go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Sunny.
Good evening, everyone. Dan, we know how excited you were to have Baseball Hall of Famer Dave Winfield as the keynote speaker for the 2024 Bravo Awards. So to commemorate his visit to our wonderful city and to recognize you for hitting a home run during your term as mayor, not only slam dunk, also a home run during your year as mayor, I would like to present you with this framed jersey of Dave Winfield and an autographed baseball comes along with it. So Dan, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Be careful. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
There you go. All right, then slide a little bit. There you go. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
All right, Dan.
It's going to be hard to top that.
It is going to be hard to top. I agree. That should have been the grand finale. Yeah. We have a big fancy truck. Dan, this was an exciting year of progress and new developments in Bellflower, and you have so much to be proud of. I would like to present you with a scrapbook that highlights your year as mayor. There you go.
Well, Dan, in order for me to top it and be last, I have a gold coin for you.
Okay.
It's 14 karat gold. No, I'm just kidding. Dan, I am proud to present you with the display of the Future of the City Flower logo and display both sides of the challenge coin. You designed and commemorated your year as a mayor with this coin, and that's something to be proud of, and it's your legacy for sure. They'll bring the 14 karat gold.
All right. I'll wait for it.
This time I would like to acknowledge the contributions, contributors that donated the books to Ramona Elementary School on Dan Coops' behalf. So thank you very much. And then, is there anybody in attendance that would like to come up and present Dan with the an opportunity to say a few words for him. If you will be coming up to speak, make the presentation. Not now, but sign in with staff afterwards, whatever. Is anybody here? Come on up. Yeah, come on up. Maybe just stand over here. We'll just kind of stand on my right. And
we'll have everybody line up over here on this side. And check in, please.
You can sit down until they're
okay.
done.
Okay. All right.
Make sure you sign in before you come up, please.
Yeah, after the. Okay. Just comments about that.
We don't need the only thing
You talk about refreshments. I don't have any. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Andalon, and I'm here representing Senator Bob Archuleta, who represents this area proudly. And today I just wanted to come deliver a certificate of recognition on his behalf. Mayor Coops, it's been a great year. I had the opportunity to work with you on a couple of projects to improve the quality of life here in the city of Bellflower. I look forward to continuing the work with you and your council. So on behalf of Senator Bob Archuleta, we'd like to present you with this certificate of recognition. You're in honor of your exemplary work and leadership as mayor. Thank you so much for your dedication to the city and to the constituents of Senate District 30 as well.
You're not done yet. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, keep it.
Dan, Jeff Smith, Chamber of Commerce. Me and my colleagues, my directors, and all my staff at the Chamber would like to thank you for all your support of the Chamber, all the small businesses and all the businesses here in town. It's great to see you at the grand openings and all of our events, and it's just been a pleasure working with you. And yes, he is the unofficial historian, because we get a lot of stories from him at the Chamber stuff, and it's really nice to hear about some of these items in town that you don't know anything about, and Dan knows. He may have built some of them, I think. But we do got some books for you, and of course, one of them is a railroad book, of course, so Polar Express, of course. And but again, thank you very much for everything you do for us and the city.
Great.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor Coops. I'll be quick because I see the line is out the door with all these recognitions.
Yeah.
So on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department, the men and women serving Bellflower, we'd like to appreciate or congratulate you on your continued support, your partnership that you have with the Sheriff Department, and your great leadership. Thank you for all you do for the residents of Bellflower, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Julia, and I'm Congressman Robert Garcia's field representative for the amazing city of Bellflower. And it's an honor to be here tonight to congratulate you on an amazing year as mayor. Your partnership with our office is so appreciated, and your leadership and your passion for the city shows, especially in, as everybody's mentioned, your deep knowledge of Bellflower's history. So congratulations.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Dan. Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Sosa. I'm the current mayor of Downey. I'm joined by my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Dorothy Pemberton, and we do have a certificate of appreciation and recognition, although it says Coop.
I told you, you put your thumb right
Oh,
there.
you put
He'll
okay,
never
right,
know.
yeah. Right there, right?
No, a little bigger. There
Okay.
you go. Right there.
Yeah, Coop. I'm old school. Our secretary must be a big Lakers fan. But I can say that, thank you for your service, your dedication. We're pretty much neighbors. And I can say that I've been driving down Bellflower Boulevard for a few decades now, and I see the improvement. Beautiful. Downtown Bellflower is beautiful. You guys get credit for that as well. So I just thank you for being a good neighbor, and congratulations.
I've been called worse. Thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Supervisor Janice Hahn to join the City of Bellflower in recognizing and honoring outgoing Mayor Dan Coop. So we really appreciate the relationship that we have with the city. The city has always been so supportive, and we really want to really acknowledge all of the hard work that you've done over the years. I know that it takes time and sacrifice, but you do it because you love the city and you love to serve. So we also want to say thank you for the kind gesture and in wanting to provide these books to the local schools. So we have Diary of Anne Frank and On Top of the World. I believe you're a big baseball fan too. So thank you so much and congrats.
Dear Mayor Dan Coops, I want to thank you for your service to our community. Your dedication and hard work have made a significant impact on the life of many peoples in our city. We appreciate the time and efforts you have put into making our city a better place. Your leadership and vision has been instrumental in bringing about positive changes, and we are grateful for all that you have done. Thank you for your support and participation in the Rotary projects, especially in the Vision to Learn. The kids were so happy to have you place and Mayor put a glasses on their eyes with the smiles on their face. Thank you again for your service to our community, and we wish you all the best in endeavor. On behalf of our Bellflower Rotary Club, we want to thank you. And our treasurer, Linda, had picked 3 books that she believed that you'd be interested on the titles. How to Catch a Dinosaur, The Very Hungry Caterpillars, and Grumpy Monkeys.
No.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriela Ballesteros, and I'm the District Director for Assemblymember Jose Luis Salache. And, you know, right before he started his role, he was the mayor of Linwood, and he knows that a lot of that change happens at the local level. So he just appreciates and admires for all your dedication and the impact that you've done for the city this past year. And it's also a tell when they said, if you want to speak and present, and half of the room came up. So that's a really good sign. But just want to congratulate you again, Mr. Coops. And we also have 2 copies of The Rainbow Fish that you give to students. So thank you. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Randy McConnell, represent the Bellflower Family Lions. And yes, we're a proud club here in Bellflower. Dan, we again, like everybody else, we do want to thank you for your service to Bellflower. I looked through the list of books, and someone said you were for the birds. So I got you the pigeon series is what we want to do. I think that's what they meant. But we do thank you. And I had these are heavy, but I had a heavier book. Then I realized it wasn't appropriate. It was all the list of things he did in elementary school. So anyway, Dan, congratulations. We really do appreciate all that you do. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Gentlemen out. Randy is probably the guy in the room that's bought more major appliances from me than any other person.
And I'm the poorer for
He ran the senior center over here in Bellflower behind the park for many years, and he always called him, I need a refrigerator, I need a stove. So I think he holds the record for how many he sold.
Hey Dan, you know I'm efficient, so I do two first. So I'm representing Bellflower Kiwanis Club and Kingdom Causes Bellflower, and we just want to thank you so much for your service, and just for the kindness that you showed to me over the years. When I first met you and joined the Bellflower Kiwanis Club, I remember my washer and dryer went out, and you let me make payments because I wasn't in a really good spot.
And you made the payment.
And I made the payment. But that's the type of man Dan is. He wants to help out the community and give back. So we just really thank you and appreciate you.
Thanks, Dan.
Somebody over here? Okay, we're good. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Corey Dow. I am the Acting Assistant Fire Chief with the Los Angeles County Fire Department, proudly serving the city of Bellflower. And I want to thank Dan. I don't know if I can say enough, but say anything that hasn't already been said, but I'm going to say it anyways. Thank you so much for your dedication and service and your support to public safety and the citizens of Bellflower. And on behalf of the Los Angeles County Fire Department and the Fire Chief, Anthony Maroney, I'd like to present you a certificate of commendation for your outstanding service to the city of Bellflower. And along with that, I'd like to present you two books that I gotta admit, I didn't pick out myself, my secretary did, but it's called A Wolf Called Wander and Holes. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you very much. Hey, Bruce.
I'm Bruce Barrows from the city of Cerritos, and we have Linda Johnson, another council member from the city of Cerritos. This is my fourth or fifth time being here over the years. And the part I wanted to share that some of you may not have heard before from, at least from us, the cities that we work with are very important to get things accomplished in Sacramento, DC, or the sanitation district. And I can tell you, Dan is a sharper businessman. You think of an appliance sales, company. This guy has a lot more than most people recognize, I think.
And not as dumb as I look.
I try not to be that blunt. But Dan, I've enjoyed sitting with members of your council over the years. We've learned a lot. We've accomplished a lot. And welcome to being a charter city. I think it's going to be very beneficial to protect the values of your city. General law just doesn't do it because it's controlled by Sacramento. So it's a good thing that it happened. I'm going to have Linda just show about the book and the proclamation for you.
Thank you, Dan, for your service. On behalf of our mayor, Naresh Solanki, and our council colleagues, Bruce Barrows, myself, Chung Vo, and Frank Yokoyama, we thank you for being our neighbor city and for all the service you've done for the residents of Bellflower. And we also have a book for you, The One and Only Ivan.
Yeah, well, that's even a bonus.
Exactly.
You guys go to the same bookstore? Great. No, thanks for coming.
That sounds like a second
Move each other's down. Oh my goodness. A little bit. Hello, everyone. David Ariano, Lakewood City Council. I would say Bellflower adjacent. It's a true honor to be here, and thank you much for your leadership. And on behalf of Mayor Todd Rogers, Councilmember Steve Croft, Cassandra Chase, and Jeff Wood, we'd like to present in collaboration also the one and only Ivan. So that's how you know we work together. So yeah, but thank you so much to know and hear all the accomplishments you have. As I come into council, you're someone that to strive for as a leader. So thank you so much for your service. I know you continue for years to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Uh-huh.
Mayor Dan Coops. I'm Susan Held, president of Bellflower Seroptimus, and we all came en masse today because we appreciate you, your service, all that you've done, and you're coming out to all of our events, showing your representation and being there for us. We really appreciate all of your years of service, and thank you for that. And we have a number of books for you. We have Diary of a Young Girl, The Wild Robot, Dragons Love Tacos, The Very Hungry Caterpillar Who's Going After the Tacos, and The Polar Bear Express. So thank you for all you do for our city. We appreciate you.
And remember, it all started on Planning Commission.
Everybody in? We can take it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Go ahead.
One day I'll teach you how to read it too.
Oh, shots fired. Hello, everybody. I'm Brad Critchfield, Media Press President of Bellflower Unified School District. And you need to get up here. Get up here, girl. What are you doing sitting over there? It's my colleague, Miss Renita Armstrong. On behalf of the entire Bellflower Unified School District and the entire and board colleagues, I want to say thank you for your leadership and also your presence. I mean, you show up. I mean, you guys know it. You see him. You show up to everything, and I appreciate that. I love the visibility. And I think Councilmember Sandy Inez mentioned earlier the 605 band. I think, Bellflower Unified is kind of like the tale of three cities. We have Bellflower, we have Lakewood, we have Cerritos students as well. And I think that exemplified the 605 band parade, really showed what collaboration and working together really does. And I think the fact that that went so well, and also the fact that you have the ask of bringing these books to donate shows that you care about the students and you really mean it. It comes from the heart. So thank you for everything you've done for the city of Bellflower and the collaboration with our school district. Thank you.
And the books.
All right.
That's a good one.
All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me introduce myself to Mayor Dan Coops. He hasn't met me yet, but my name is Mariana Rios. I'm the new board trustee for Area 4 for Cerritos College. So you are in our area, and we thank you because I already foresee many children and families enjoying these books. I am a teacher myself. So when I saw your request and your vision for Ramona Elementary, it was amazing. So we got you 4 books. They are repetitive, but there's a lot of children at that school, I'm sure, that will enjoy these greatly. Grumpy Monkey, awesome read. He's grumpy. There's so many things that can make him happy, but ultimately what brings them together is friendship. And I'm not sure if that's why you selected it, because these books were selected by you. Dragons Love Tacos. I was not aware there was a sequel. Right? So there's a sequel and there's no more tacos, but there's imagination that a tree is planted, so we will forever have tacos. Beautiful. And then obviously, I'm not sure what copy of this, the 20th maybe, the one and only Ivan. And I'll let you figure that one out for yourselves to have your own read in your time. So thank you for your vision and requesting these books or asking in lieu of recognition. I hope the children enjoy it greatly on your behalf.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks for repeating it.
Well, I want to say something. You'll be very happy. Actually, I'm running for Cerritos City Council. I was walking on the street when people told me that you're outgoing president today. So I said, I'm going. So I stopped walking, just come here. So forgive me, I'm dressed today. I mean, not nicely. I want to apologize. My shoes dirty. This is who I am. I want to thank you. Time just flies. I remember a year ago when former Mayor Sonny just not president, off the duty for your mayor position, but I was here. Yes. And I remember you next to him. I remember the tall guy, handsome guy right next to him. And I was so midget. And I was a midget that time. I said, oh no. But anyway, congratulations and thank you. And sure enough, I have a picture of 605, 3 City, Cerritos. We're one of them to involve. And I went there in the morning at 4 o'clock just to support our 3 City activity together. Want to thank you for all your service and congratulations. ABC Unified School District board member here. Thank you. I'll cover everything too, okay? No political.
All right, thank you.
Probably right in front, just this direction, so it's right here is easier for you. There.
Hello, I'm Janet Incorn. I'm president of the Women's Club of Bellflower, and I'm also I have a few hats on, but they're not, you can't see them. I'm also here for the Friends of the Library, and as a grandma, my granddaughter just loved taking a picture with you. And then when she saw you waving at her at the 605 parade, she got such a kick out of that. So I just, as our thank you, we have a few bags for you of books. The only one I haven't heard of is Charlotte's Web. So there's a few of those, and those are classics. You just can't have enough Charlotte's Web. So we want to thank you for your commitment and just being there for the city, and we really value you and appreciate you. And also, Eden Hernandez, or Escobedo is here for Miss Bellflower.
I wear a couple hats, but thank you, Dan, for always being for Bellflower. Good job.
That's okay. You got it, Pete? You're okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Got it right here.
Thank you very much.
That's right. You're pretty observant there, Councilmember Sands. You're pretty observant. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Larry Wehage. That's being announced to improve on Ray Dunton's pronunciation. I listened to all of the different groups that came up, and I just wanted to add a couple of more. I sit on the Workforce Development Board, Southeast LA County. It encompasses 8 cities, Bellflower being one of those 8. That is a great organization, and I just want to let you know that that organization is in the House today also. I sit on the Public Safety Commission. When Dan became the mayor, when he became a council member, he knew that I was on the Public Safety Review Board, and he grabbed me to sit on Public Safety, and I've been on there ever since. A great experience for those of you that are members of the community. Get involved as best you can. Also a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a member of the Bellflower New Lions Club. Finally, I just want to say I didn't bring any books because I got up at the very last minute just to let you know, Dan, that there are other groups in the House that appreciate you, all the stuff that you've done for this city over the years. Your jokes are phenomenal. Your memory on the history of Bellflower is phenomenal. In fact, I've got a picture I want to show you from 1920 regarding the Woodruff Hotel. See what I mean, folks? You see what I mean? Anyway, I just want to let you know that there are other groups in the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Me? You?
Don't sit down, Dan.
No, okay.
There we go. Thank you, Dan, and congratulations again for all you did this year, or last year, for being mayor. This concludes our outgoing mayor ceremony, and but we're going to hear from Dan right now, and he's going to make his comments and tell us all the wonderful things that we forgot that he did this year, and maybe a couple of stories if we hear long enough or whatever. So come on, Dan, and come on up and share with that.
Okay. First of all, I'm so thankful that you would come to this. To be the outgoing mayor and be recognized for it is just frosting on the cake. And I'm going to go over a few things brief. You know, we're not going to spend all night on this. But I use as my basis for this Sonny Stantonet's Christmas letter. Because he listed every item. You know, no, I just whited out the bottom and I wrote my name. A lot of work in this. Oh, no. Well, we got a problem. Victor didn't get the letter. Yeah, Bellflower Post Office took care of them. You know, Moshe, when you brought up the idea that the gift that keeps on giving, and that's a wonderful phrase, and I remember when I was in 7th grade health, the teacher, Farron Dotson from Washington Junior High, said,
The gift that keeps on giving is venereal disease. And yeah. So, yeah. And he always, I just associate with that, you know. Think about that, right? But anyway, thanks to Mayor Dutton, Mayor Pro Tem Sonny, and Councilmember Wendy Morris and Councilmember Sanchez. The group of us as a council has made the difference. All the things that have been talked about this evening, that's not me. That's our group. That's our council. And we sometimes have differences of opinion, but we all respect each other. And when it's all said and done, we can still be friends, but we may have a different viewpoint on certain items. And what that translates into is what was written or said by Mayor earlier. Dutton said that we had almost an 80% approval to become a charter city. And so the people, our constituents, the residents, trust this council. And that's the best part about being on council. We're united, and people observe that. And as a result, we're able to pass things that were maybe in the balance before. And as was mentioned by Bruce Barrows from Cerritos, this is going to make a difference in our city because we're not going to be able to listen to all the things that the state of California imposes on us. We can govern ourselves. And that's been a huge change. And we have here, I just signed this evening because this was done when our city became a charter city. And this is framed and we'll hang it in City Hall. But that's like the Declaration of Independence as far as the city of Bellflower goes. Now, as was mentioned, I couldn't have done this without my life mate here, Judy. And Judy and I were married 50 years this summer. We got married in 1974. So she's, and we all have wives that do their best to support us and encourage us. And believe it or not, when people engage us on the street, not every comment is positive. In fact, there's more of the negatives than positive. So you really cherish the positive ones. But based on Sonny's letter of this year, these are some of the things we did. We opened the Best Buy outlet. We opened the Cold Stone Creamery, the Young's Tackle, the Soulmate Coffee and Tea, Teriyaki J's over on Alondra, Legal Ink, which I thought was a tattoo parlor, but apparently it's not. Arte Cafe and Embroidery Trends here in Bellflower. So these are some of the businesses. I didn't get them all, but the ones that were in the letter I included here. We completed that gateway sign, as indicated in the Christmas letter, over on the corner of Alondra and Bellflower Boulevard, a reader sign, and we're going to keep that up. It has announcements for the city. We just recently took down that it said we're having a Christmas tree lighting, so I had that removed sometime in January. I think that was December 6th, so we're right on it, man. Maybe we're promoting for next year. Yes. Future projects. Big one is the Oak Center project. We're getting bids on that as we speak. It's going to be a magnificent building over there in Sims Park. That park's going to be totally improved. We're going to put a reservoir underground just like they did at Carruthers, and there'll be $45 million spent on that park when it's all said and done. The Kmart building that we looked at for the last 7 or 8 years, which is empty, there's a super Hispanic market called Vallarta, and they've taken possession of that. I'm going to start working on that. And this place will have a full-service meat counter, a restaurant. It's going to have a deli. It'll have a tremendous produce department and specialty foods from Mexico and Central America and South America. So it's really going to be an asset to our community once they get it going. Those are just some of the things that come to mind as we think about the future. One of the things I wanted to recognize is the fact that we have had a cohesive council, but more importantly, we have a great staff here in the city of Bellflower. Jeff Stewart was with us for about 10 years. He retired at the end of last year, and we have a new city manager, and his name is Ryan Smoot. Ryan's been with us a year, And he's doing a fantastic job because he's worked for the city before, and he's come back and improved it a lot, knows what we need to do, and has a real heart for the city. I need to mention that a guy that's been here quite some time is Travis Seiss, and he's going to take a job in, what is it? Santo Domingo? What is it? San Dimas. Yeah. I know it was an S and a D. Yeah. He wanted to go to Santo Domingo, but they didn't want him. But by Travis being here during the transition from Jeff Stewart's administration into the new one with Ryan Smoot has been really helpful, because Ryan could then learn where we were in the projects and how we could keep the momentum going, brought new ideas to us. And I didn't realize until Jeff was here, one of the things that city managers try to do is promote those that work within the city. And Ryan was promoted to work in Lomita. He went there on a job interview just because, on a lark for practice, and he ended up with the job. He was 32 years old. So he's there 8 years, now we brought him back. And Randy Stover, who had the job that Travis now enjoys, ended up in Alhambra. And now Travis has earned his way to an assistant city manager job in San Dimas. So we're proud of what we do in Bellflower to promote those employees that really excel so they can continue onward and upward. But I'm so optimistic about the future of Bellflower. Tate Ree, who's in the back of the room, would tell you, and he's been here over 25, 30 years as the director of finance, that we have never been in such good financial state as we are right now. And that's huge. When Mr. Dutton and I got on the council, him in 2007, 2009, and Sonny in 2011, we had parentheses around almost every one of our columns because we were losing money. But we've been able to turn the tide, and you can see the improvements that were recognized by the Downey mayor, that things are getting better, and they'll continue to get better. Not many regrets. The things that we've chosen to do have been supported. Sonny and I, I'll be honest with you, are a little reluctant on the marijuana thing. But Ron Schnaubegger and Mr. Dutton says, I think we can pull this off, and the city trusted us. And a little side note, some of the monies that came in on that fund were used to support the 605 band. Yeah, think about that. When $50,000 a year is paid by the cannabis guys that pull a permit, and a portion of that always goes aside for education. And so our thought was the kids are playing an instrument, not doing marijuana, so that qualifies. But those are just a few things that are on my mind. I want to thank you for the privilege and the honor of being the mayor of my hometown. I've lived in this city all my life. I was born in 1951. I started attending Ramona School as a kindergartner in 1956, so I always have a heart for that elementary school. And I go in there and I try to read with the kids whenever they have the reading day. And then I'll tell the kids, they'll ask me, says, who was the president of the United States when you were here? And I said, Eisenhower. You would have thought I said Calvin Coolidge. You know? Then they ask questions like, did you ride a horse to school? You know, like I'm Abraham Lincoln. These are all true stories. So. But to be an honorary member of the Rotary Club and go over there, and we fitted 86 students in that school who had tested their eyesight to see that they couldn't see. So how can you learn if you can't see? And I went out there one morning with other members of the Rotary, and Connie and the president, some others, and we fitted those kids with glasses. And they stood there in front of us and said, I can see. I mean, what a reward as a parent to be able to say, your kid can see. And they had never been able to see what they could see in those books. And so that's why it's fine for you to give me an award. I appreciate it very much. But beyond that, I like to leave something behind for the children. And by doing the books, that shows my interest in their school. And, you know, it's not the same school that I went to in 1956 to 1962. It's bigger, it's more diverse, it's poor. And so as a past alumni of that school, it's incumbent on me to do my best. I've had success in this city. I had my own store for 47 years, and that's why I have a good feel for Chamber of Commerce. I know what a struggle it is to be a small business owner. And so I concluded that a couple of years ago, and like my wife said, I could spend more time with council work. But it's been a real privilege, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight. Oh, one story about Mr. Dutton. No, I'm not going to tell the one about your parents, which is a great story, by the way. Ray mentioned that where the Chamber of Commerce building is now housed, the purchase was made by the city here earlier in the year. And prior to that, it was a vacant lot for many, many years, and there was a building there that was hauled out by the Lions Club. And Santa would sit in there and take the known wishes of the children in the community. I even knew the Santa. His name was Mr. Rich. He was a member of the Lions Club. I mowed his yard. That's the only reason I knew him. But they would haul that deal back to Van Ruten Dairy, which is where Kaiser Hospital was. And my uncle ran that dairy, so I could sit in that thing 365 days a year if I wanted. But that was where the Santa hut was kept throughout the year, and they'd drag it up Bellflower Boulevard, put lights on it and reindeer, and it was cool. A little bit of history of Bellflower. But I got one joke I want to tell you because that's how I'm known. And there was a second grade class, and the little girl in the class was learning from the teacher who was talking about whales. And the story was that she says all whales have a very small throat, and they could never swallow a human being. And the little girl raised her hand and says, well, I beg to differ. Jonah was swallowed by the whale, and then he was spit out 3 days later. And the teacher says, no, it couldn't be done. And she said, well, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask Jonah whether or not he was swallowed by that whale, and if he came back out later. And then teacher says to him, well, what if Jonah went to hell? He said, well, then you ask him. So, you like that one, Pastor? Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Started with a joke, finished with a joke. Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody. That concludes, and I want to remind everybody out here on the second floor balcony, right out this way where you came in, there's going to be refreshments and punch and coffee and whatnot. So help yourself. Thank you. Okay, we're going to reconvene the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council to open session Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Morse? Here. Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Santinez?
Here.
Councilmember Coops?
Here.
Mayor Dutton?
Here. Okay, we're going to start with City Council announcements, and I'll go first. The Bellflower Symphony Orchestra will be performing a winter concert on Saturday, February 1st at 7 p.m. in the William and Jane Bristol Auditorium located here in our City Hall. This free concert will feature selections from the beloved classics such as Mozart's Don Giovanni, and more information on this event, you can visit the Bellflower website for the symphony. It's www.bellflowersymphony.org. Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Mark your calendars. On February 22nd, Bellflower residents can pick up to 2 free bags of compost, also known as mulch, provided by CRNR Environmental Services. Stop by the Public Works Yard located at 9944 Flora Vista Street between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. while supplies last. For more information, please visit www.bellflower.org. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santinez. Councilmember Dan Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City of Bellflower expects to receive federal funding from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, to support the Community Development Block Grant Program, also known as CDBG, which helps address affordable housing and community development needs. To gather input from the community on how these funds should be used, the city is conducting a survey
which will be available through February the 7th. To complete the survey, please visit www.bellflower.org. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, immediate past Mayor Dan Coops.
Mayor Emeritus.
Councilmember Wendy Morse.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. Have you ever wanted to sell at a farmer's or night market? Here's your chance to learn. Join us from Maker to Market every Monday, starting February 24th, 2025 through March 31st, 2025. The city has partnered with the Long Beach City College SBDC, Iron Fire Workspaces, and the Bellflower Farm and Craft Market to host an in-person program that guides you through the steps of how to accomplish your entrepreneurial goals. Over 6 weeks, you will learn about planning, product sourcing, costing and pricing, marketing to the local community, funding your venture, and selling from your local farmer's market, night market, or swap meet. To register, visit www.bellflower.org/programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Morris. Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. The Bellflower Chamber of Commerce invites businesses, service clubs, and the community to its next monthly morning mingle tomorrow morning, Tuesday, January 28th from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, please call Bellflower Chamber of Commerce at 562-867-1744. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Victor Sanchez. And we don't have any presentations tonight. Public comments, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me find my agenda here, excuse me. Thank you. This is the time set aside for the public to address the City Council on matters not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the City Council should come to the podium, be recognized by the mayor, and state your name for the record. If you wish to address the City Council on an agenda item, you may do so by approaching the podium as we review that particular item, and you'll be given 3 minutes to address the City Council.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak on anything not on the agenda?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm just curious, some of my neighbors have been asking me about the status of the internet service here in town, and is there any kind of update I can give them? I'm kind of like the information person on our street.
Mr. Smoot, do we have somebody?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Jim to come up and give a quick update on that.
Okay.
Oh, hello. Fine, how are you?
Good. Councilmember, Mayor, and council members, the Bellflower Connect is, we're starting to deal out all the modems in phase 1 right now. So we'll have hopefully phase 1 modems going out through the next 6 months, and that's going to expand to all the phases as more and more of the towers get implemented in City Hall. I can talk to Cheryl outside of the meeting here and give her a lot more information on that, but it's moving forward, and they anticipate by summertime we should have the entire all 4 phases of the city operational, and then it's just a matter of getting the free modems out and distributing them.
So there's been continuous construction going on after phase 1, then phase 2, when other things are happening on
Correct.
The
There's a lot of back of house stuff going on that you don't see. It's more planning and signal planning rather than construction, because they're going to actually occupy existing towers that are utilized by other cell companies.
Gotcha. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to come forward? Not seeing any, we'll move on. Item 10A, Mr. Smoot.
And Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to do so, we can consider item 10A and 10B together. They are somewhat related.
That'd be perfect, because I was going to ask that if we get that far and there's motions on it, can we do both motions at the same time? Okay. That question's answered now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The city manager and I will probably tag team on these 2 items. As you see, the first one is from both of us. The second one's from myself. I think most of the history is known to the city council. It was more specifically discussed last October when the Consolidated Fire Protection District for Los Angeles County, otherwise known as the Fire Department, was threatening the city with regard to legal action over the 2019 decision to adopt the California Fire Code rather than the LA County version of the fire regulations. I can go through each one of these if you want in detail, but I think the council knows most of the history. It's laid out again in the staff reports. This is an action taken after the city charter was adopted. As was mentioned earlier this evening, it was adopted by a 77% approval rating, and the voters overwhelmingly directed the city and the city council to take action to prevent government overreach from other agencies outside of the city's jurisdiction. This is simply the enactment of, or the implementation of the voters' intent with regard to adopting the city charter. The city council took previous action on this, but this simply adds to the city council's repertoire of arguments against the fire department. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. The legislative subpoena part of this, which is item 10B, I would authorize the city attorney's office to issue legislative subpoenas to the fire department to try to understand exactly why the fire department is taking the position that the city council is not authorized to adopt its own regulations with regard to fire. And it would also authorize us to approach the state, including the Office of State Fire Marshal, the Department of Community and our Housing and Community Development, and other state agencies to get opinions with regard to the city council's ability to adopt these regulations. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions to the city attorney or staff?
Or staff. Okay. Yeah, as you made aware, thank you, Mayor. We're familiar with this situation. I just got a call this morning about this item, and if you can explain, I know the answer, but I think for the benefit of the listening public, I think it will be helpful to explain to them the difference between the state fire code and then the county fire code in general, and then what's the benefit for us, for the city, in terms of following the state fire code, and then if there's any difference between the two. Basically, the question was, if we follow the state fire code, will there be a chance that somehow we're missing something that may be in existence with the county fire code? That was the concern. Okay, so just in general terms, for the for the benefit of the listening public.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, council members, that's an excellent question. Generally the state adopts the California Fire Code, and then counties and cities can adopt local codes as they see fit to that regulate services within their particular areas. In this case, when the council took these actions, I believe it was in 2019, the council was looking at very specific things within the fire code that actually went, the LA County Fire Code, that actually went the opposite direction, that made it more difficult for people to construct things safely and took more time to do so. So the council at that time thought that this was a way of expediting development of housing and commercial development in the city, and to make those things move a little bit quicker. So the council determined in 2019 that we should adopt actually the California Fire Code as opposed to the LA County Fire Code here. So that's the action it took then, and this is simply reaffirming that decision going forward tonight.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I can just tag team on the city manager's comments on that. The California Fire Code is developed over a period of 3 to 4 years based upon past events within California and actually nationally. So there's a national model code that's adopted and presented to various states throughout the United States. And then each state specifically will add in additional things that's specific to that state. So for example, in California, we're more concerned about mudslides, we're more concerned about fire, we're more concerned about rain, flooding, that type of thing, as opposed to some other state. For example, Montana is less concerned about earthquakes than is California. I just use that as an obvious example. What happens is the California state then imposes that through the California Code of Regulations upon all public agencies throughout California. What Ryan was alluding to is that each specific jurisdiction can make slight changes to the California Fire Code based upon local conditions. So, for example, in Southern California, we'll be more concerned about fires than perhaps, say, up near the Oregon border, where obviously there's a fire concern, but it's not as dramatic as it is in Southern California, as we've seen in recent days. Now, obviously, with changes to weather patterns based upon climate change and what have you, we're going to become more concerned with fire. But that's going to be implemented at a state level. And one of the things that the ordinances specifically identify is the governor's order to state agencies to streamline permitting to allow not only for the reconstruction of housing within the areas that have suffered the tragedies that we've seen over the past several weeks, but also in general. And what the city of Bellflower has done, pursuant to the direction of the city council, is streamlined already the permitting requirements within the city's jurisdiction. And this is simply a reaffirmation of what the council has already done and has been doing for the past 6 years.
Makes sense.
If I can add to that, Mayor, with the recent fire and the desire to reconstruct as fast as we could, I think it's becoming more apparent that the regulations set up by the county will basically slow down reconstruction compared to what's promulgated by the state. So I think it's going to be more apparent in terms of the difficulty, the red tape, and all these things, all the hoops that they have to jump over to reconstruct their homes. So.
And that I would add, Carl noted, one of the things we've noted here is with the governor's executive orders and the emergency declarations, the governor's basically said, are there ways that local agencies and state agencies can expedite the reconstruction necessary in these types of situations, and specifically in these situations? I think the city of Bellflower is an excellent example of that. For example, the city council has adopted a self-certification program that allows folks to come in and say, a licensed architect, a licensed engineer says, hey, we'd like to build this project and do it quickly. We're going to certify that this meets all of the codes necessary. And then on the back end, when you're doing your inspections, if there's something that's not compliant with those codes, we'll take responsibility for that. That's a model that we think that the state should be able to adopt similar to we have. There's, with the emergency declarations, there's some waivers for CEQA requirements in that process, which obviously, as we all know, takes a significant amount of time and effort and resources to go through that process. Anytime we can be minimizing that red tape to build the housing that's necessary, we just lost more than 10,000 housing units in the state of California. When we know we need housing, this is a way we can help to expedite those things. So if we can use Bellflower as a model to those state agencies, that's what we're trying to promulgate here.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could just add one additional observation, which is there's nothing that prohibits applicants from coming in and complying with the LA code. It's simply not a legal requirement within the city of Bellflower that they do so. So you can submit plans that comply with LA code, which also complies with the California Fire Code. It's just that the city of Bellflower has chosen to only adopt the California Fire Code, which hopefully streamlines the ability of applicants to come in and have their plans approved and for a building permit to be issued.
Thank you, Mayor.
When you refer to LA code, you mean LA County code?
Correct. It's the LA County code that's
Don't get them mixed up.
Sorry. Yes, correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, just to comment, I think anytime that we take an opportunity to review or ensure that our policies are helping streamline the process in construction and in building more housing, whether affordable or market rate or otherwise, is obviously a good step in the right direction. And I'm sure that that is the path forward that we will continue to do as we make decisions in our policies. It's something we talked about at our strategic planning session, right? And how do we do that? And I think this is a perfect example of reinforcing something we've already been practicing for some time now. So I just wanted to commend staff for this and for bringing it back. My understanding here, Mr. Berger, it obviously is not temporary, right? It's just even though it's an urgency ordinance, it's a continuation, right? There's no drop dead end date.
Correct. So this is simply the reaffirmation of action that the council already took when it adopted the 2022 California Fire Code. So we will have another round of consideration for the fire code actually at the end of this year to take effect in 2026. So you'll be seeing this same type of recommendation probably October, November of this year.
Is it every 4 years or every 2 years that we will see it?
Every 3.
Every 3.
And to be clear, your question regarding the urgency ordinance, you have two ordinances before you with item 10A. It's an urgency ordinance and a first reading of an ordinance 1438 and 1439. So there's two things before that.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. If that's all the questions, would entertain a motion from somebody and make a motion on both of them. not, I can do it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the city of Bellflower to adopt urgency ordinance number 1438, and number 2, to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1439, and thirdly, for city council to adopt resolution 2503.
I'll second the motion.
A motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santa Ynez and a second by Councilmember Coops. Call roll, please.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Santinas?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye. And that's what we call a 5-0.
2 times.
Okay, item 10C, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item coming before you as a result of your charter adoption as well, and I'm going to hand this one off to Mr. Gurecki.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. So before you tonight, we have consideration of urgency ordinance number 1440, and then the introduction of ordinance number 1441, which would be an ordinance amending Chapter 3.30 to Title 3 of the Bellflower Municipal Code entitled Public Works Contracts in its entirety. Briefly, if adopted, these ordinances would amend Chapter 3.30 of the Bellflower Municipal Code in its entirety to implement the city charter by doing several items. So first would be the establishment of bidding regulations allowing the city to utilize the best value for retaining contractors rather than the lowest responsible bidder. The second item would be authorizing the utilization of design-build process for all public works projects, regardless of the engineer's estimates. Just as a note, in general law cities, you can only use this process if the value of the project is more than $1 million. The third item would be delegating authority to the city engineer to secure design immunity for the city by approving design and construction plans. Next would be the establishing when prevailing wage must be paid, whether for classic public works projects as defined by the ordinances. The fifth item would be the exempting the economic opportunity projects from paying prevailing wage unless otherwise determined by the city council resolution. And the final part of it would be confirming that projects implemented by the city for abating public nuisances are not public works projects that require payment of prevailing wage. So with that, the recommendation to the City Council is the adoption of urgency ordinance number 1440 upon 4/5 vote. Secondly, read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1441, or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gurecki. Any questions to Mr. Gurecki?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, one question.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gurecki, can you explain real quick the amounts that you spoke about regarding the authorization and what triggers a public project?
The dollar amount?
Right.
So as a general law city, you're limited to doing the design build process to projects that are $1 million or more. So as a charter city, we have no limit there. So if I'm going to do a $500,000 project, there's a lot more cost value to doing the design build process rather than hiring a architect to design and then a project manager to put it all together and then to bid it out. So it expedites the process and also creates a smoother transition for these projects. You're hiring one person to turnkey the project.
During the design phase. Once in construction phase.
No, you can do the build as well. That's design build, yes.
Up to any amount.
Yeah, so there's no minimum amount. So general law city, you can't do it for projects less than $1 million. As a charter city, we could. So if I wanted to do a project that was, say, in the $500,000 range, we're going to redesign the lobby of City Hall, as an example. And it's not going to be $1 million. So we can design build that. So we can put out an RFP to have a company come in, similar to what we did with Leadcore,
Okay.
with the fire museum. So they came in, they worked with an architect. They put a team together from design all the way through construction and project management, and they did that project for us. So we didn't bid it out 3 different ways. So.
Very good.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could just add on to Mr. Gorecki's observations, in addition to the design build, which is an option, it's not required each time that we go out to bid. It's an option that can be employed by the city to deliver projects. The other part of this recommended action is to allow or delegate authority to the city manager or designee to solicit for bids and then make recommendations to the city council for everything dealing with your CIP, your capital improvement plan, which you adopt usually on a 2 to 3 year basis. So all of those projects that are listed, rather than right now, for example, we go twice to the city council. First, you come, as you recall, you adopt a resolution finding design immunity for a particular project and authorizing solicitation for bids and moving forward. And then it comes back to the city council for consideration for award. We're skipping the first step with these regulations. So in essence, once you've adopted the CIP, that allows staff to move forward and solicit for bids and then come back with recommendations for any project that's over $100,000 for award. And then we move forward with the project. So there's still that oversight from the city council's position for all projects that are over $100,000. Anything less, though, is right now the signature authority is $75,000, so that would go up by $25,000. But anything less than $100,000 would simply be solicited for bids, awarded, and then the contracts would be executed, all without the need for coming back to the city council for approval, since you've already come to the council with approval for the CIP in the first place.
One follow-up question
go ahead.
for Mr. Gorecki. Under the term classic public work projects, Mr. Gorecki, what is the definition?
Public works projects defined, I believe the threshold is $5,000 or more. So any kind of a maintenance, construction, similar acts like that would be considered a public works project, $5,000 or more of value.
And so exactly what's going to be changing here if we adopt this resolution?
In terms of the public works project, Carl, you might be able to give me assistance on that?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so as you're aware, the charter, when it was adopted, identified so-called classic public works projects as being required to pay prevailing wage. So that's streets, sidewalks, gutters, buildings, whatever you think of that you can look at. The issue comes up where the Department of Industrial Relations in the state of California have identified other types of projects as being public projects, which an ordinary observer wouldn't look at and say, oh, that's a public project. And a classic example that we use here in this city is economic development opportunities that Mr. Delalonga is going to discuss later on in the agenda as an example. Those are subject to prevailing wage if you're a general law city, which on the face of it doesn't really make sense because the city is actually providing an economic incentive to private projects to come within the city to provide additional economic revenue to the city. And now, if they get a grant from the city or a forgiven or a small loan or whatever it might be, all of a sudden that project is subject to prevailing wage and they've just tacked on 30 to 35% onto their overall project. So what these regulations would do is it specifically identify economic opportunity or business opportunities as not being subject to prevailing wage. In addition, it would identify, as you know, part of the strategic plan is to do nuisance abatement and to clean up the city. So this regulation would specifically identify nuisance abatement as not being a public project, which also makes sense on the face of it because although the city is fronting the money to go and clean up a property, you're also recouping that same amount of money from the private property owner. Ideally, these are private projects, they're not public projects. So really, it doesn't really make any sense from the outside to be paying prevailing wage for those projects, which we had to do before the charter was adopted.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Berger. So to clarify, public work projects will mean any of the following when paid for in whole or in part with public funds: construction, reconstruction, alterations, demolition, renovations, improvements, and repair work involving any city-owned, city-leased, or city-operated facility. That will all remain under prevailing wage.
That's correct.
Code.
So as a general law city, you paid prevailing wage for that. As a charter city, you pay prevailing wage for that.
That's what I want to clarify. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Smoot, in terms of the capital improvement plan, those will be very specific in terms of which project and then the budget for each particular project.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, you do have a capital improvement plan within your budget currently, but one of the things Len's team is working on is a very specific, longer-term capital improvement plan to bring to you as part of your budget process coming forth. And those projects would be identified through that with a funding source and a time frame associated with them. And once we identify those in those, that's what you're looking at here.
Yeah, okay. And I also want to comment about this because when we were putting forth the charter in the last election, one of the questions that I've been receiving was, give me an example of the benefit to the city. And I used that as a specific example because we gave grants of up to $10,000 for business assistance program. And if I recall correctly, there was a grantee that we gave $10,000. It took them 6 months to find a contractor to actually accept that contract of $10,000, because if you look at the contractors these days, they bid on big projects, and to go to the state, to the DIR, register with them, and then also the benefit of the additional cost for prevailing wage. If we're paying $10,000, the actual value, basically prevailing wage, is basically between $7,000 and $8,000, because there's about at least 35% markup because of the prevailing wage. And that was a perfect example that I used during the election in terms of educating our voters. And I want to thank our staff for bringing this forward, because the ordinance is being put forward now is basically, if you compare that with the federal or state level, the charter is the constitution of this city. Now we're passing ordinance, which is basically the laws implementing the charter of the city. So I expect there's going to be more ordinances implementing the charter going forward.
There certainly will be, and I think it's worth noting, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that in the findings associated with this ordinance, you also have more references to the things the state's trying to accomplish with regard to the fires right now, and the spark ordinances that you've just adopted as more examples of how the city of Bellflower could be a model for other agencies.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No.
Mr. Mayor, just more comments. And it's not just about the fires, it's about building, it's about housing and other stuff like that. But with this, what we're doing here, we're finding a balance, right, between the classic projects that are prevailing wage and are entitled for that, and even the unions that brought up questions about it. We're in favor of the idea of us being able to help and facilitate assistance for small businesses and things of that nature, right? To Mr. Mayor Pro Tem's point, it's that flexibility point. So again, here we're being creative, and I think that finding that balance, that gray area, and working together to help both the small businesses and continue to support the bigger projects and stuff of that nature is what we're doing. So I just want to commend this council for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things that rubbed me raw is we have a lot of copper theft, and you can't hire the local electrician just to repair the stuff and pull copper in because it's not prevailing wage, and nobody will touch it. Well, I ain't doing that. You know, they don't need the the regulations behind prevailing wage to, put them out of business. But anyway, now we have a chance to get actual small business to do a little work in this town and get it done and make them succeed and get it done faster with less red tape. Seems to be the flavor of the year, less red tape, huh?
That sounds good with me.
We're always seems that we're just in the right position sometimes. Well, would anybody like to make a motion on 10C?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. Read by title only, waive further reading, adopt urgency ordinance number 1440. Read by title only and waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1441. An ordinance amending chapter 3.30 to title 3 of the Bellflower Municipal Code entitled Public Works Contracts in its entirety.
I'll second the motion.
A motion on the floor by Councilmember Coops and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santa Ynez. Call roll, please.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Santa Ynez?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye. Another 5-0. Okay. Item 11A.
I'll take this one.
I was going to say, you want me to take it?
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Of the three of us, I'm probably the only one that can take it.
I got enough information here, I could have winged it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a recommended action to amend the employment contracts of the city manager and the city attorney for the reasons set forth in the staff report, and I do need to read into the record the recommended changes. I should note before I read that into the record that the council was previously provided with calculations based upon a 3.4% CPI. That was an error. It should be a 3.9% increase, and the numbers in this particular staff report reflect that 3.9% increase. So this is for the city manager. The proposed adjustment for the calendar year 2025 would increase salary by $10,569 for a total salary of $281,569 annually. The proposed adjustment will increase taxes and benefits by approximately $2,690. For the city clerk, the proposed adjustment for calendar year 2025 would increase salary by $5,463 for a total salary of $145,547 annually. The proposed adjustment will increase taxes and benefits by approximately $3,392. This would be the First Amendment to the city manager's contract and the Sixth Amendment to the city clerk's contract. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions, colleagues?
Mayor, I just want to make a
Go right ahead.
Thank you for making the correction. I don't want to give the impression that we're shorting our newly appointed city manager by 0.05%. Thank you.
Oh, that's all?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Coops, let's hear it.
Why is it that the increase for the city manager will increase taxes and benefits by approximately $26.90, and for the city clerk it's $33.92 when she's receiving less of an increase in dollar-wise?
So one of the reasons I went to law school is so I didn't have to figure out the math on this. But Mr.
I was told there would be no math.
Exactly. Mr. Rhee is here to explain that, but I will give you my knee-jerk reaction, which is that the city clerk has opted to take most of her benefits as deferred compensation, which reduces her tax obligations. And I'll see if I'm right based upon Mr. Rhee's reaction.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
All right. Thank you.
Just hope he's as good with the legal work. That was pretty funny, huh?
You ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Just a quick comment.
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Mayor.
Sorry, Victor.
No, you're good. Well, one, yes, I'm glad that the correction was made on the percentages, but I just want to say thank you to our city manager and city clerk. We're glad to have you here. I know we've made comments like that in the past. We're glad we're able to renew the contract and extend the contract. And assuming we pass it right now, but with that said, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Coops.
All right. Also, I'll make a motion to, on the consideration items, to increase city manager by $10,569 and increase the annual 2025 for the city clerk to $5,463.
And I would gladly second the motion.
Okay. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I decided to say something before we call roll. Myself and my colleagues were in closed session, and we reviewed and interviewed both the city clerk and the city manager and looked over the progress over the past year. It wasn't just something that we took lightly. It's the work that gets done here. It's the things that go on as far as the workload and the expectation of what can come in the future, and we all weigh that in to the account. Fortunately, we're in a position that we can kind of do this to keep up with the rates for other cities. We have other cities that have we do salary surveys and we see those, and we try to keep Bellflower always in the medium. And it's always trying to adjust, and every time we do a salary survey, we find we're outside the box or outside the window. And this is putting us in check with other cities, because when we have a good team, we don't want to lose people over salary or benefits and to another city because we weren't, paying the fair rate. And this is not taking lightly. I just want to tell the listening community that when we do this, we really think about it, and when we decide what we're going to do, we're all in favor of it. And that was done, and now it's here for us out in the public to bring it out. And just wanted to let everybody know the thinking process. Does anybody else have any comments that way? I'll let you.
No, I agree.
No? And with that said, we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Coops, and a second, if I recall, by Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santa Ynez. So call roll.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Santa Ynez?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye. Okay, item 11B, and that's
I
looks
have
like
a conflict on 11B.
that's. Let the record reflect that Wendy Morse is going to leave the dais due to
An employer property.
employer property conflict on this item. All right.
And Mr. Mayor, this one's related to one of the actions you took previously, but I'm going to allow Jim to take it a little further than that, and he'll go into some depths for you.
Okay. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Smoot. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. These items before you tonight for consideration are two separate but related items. First, staff is requesting direction regarding the current project under the designated block downtown facade improvement program for the storefronts located at the northwest corner of Bellflower Boulevard and Oak Street. The second item is a recommendation that the City Council adopt Resolution 25-05, determining that the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan is not subject to prevailing wage pursuant to the city charter. For some background, the City Council approved adding the designated block facade improvement program to the Business Assistance Plan in July of 2022. At the same time, the Council designated the first block for this program, the 4 buildings at the northwest corner of Bellflower Boulevard and Oak Street. At that time, $175,000 was budgeted for the program. Staff then began and completed easement negotiations with the property owners, and plans and specs were prepared. In anticipation of higher costs as the plans and specs were prepared, the budget was increased to $300,000 in fiscal year 23-24 budget. The plans and specs were approved by City Council in May 2024, and the project went out to bid with no bids received. As a result, City Council approved the city to direct negotiate for the project. 2 prevailing wage bids were received at $600,000 and $680,000. And after the charter was approved, staff solicited a non-prevailing wage bid that came in just under $540,000. These were all in excess of the budgeted $300,000 that we had. So should City Council wish to complete this project, staff recommends utilizing unspent current year budget and increasing the fiscal year 24-25 budget by $350,000, which would bring the total funding for the project to $850,000. This increase in funding will, number one, address the increase in project costs that were experienced as we went through the process. 2, cover the cost of construction management for the project. And 3, add a contingency for unanticipated project costs that may arise when the work begins on those old buildings, as well as potential price spikes due to the California wildfires. Now for the second portion of this agenda item, the designated block facade improvement program and the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan were approved before the city charter became effective, as was this specific project. The designated block downtown facade improvement program is a little different from the city's standard facade improvement program in that the city is contracting for the improvement work, and easements were obtained on the private building facades. However, for this program, the work will be completed on private buildings, not public buildings, and it is not a traditional public works project, as was explained earlier tonight. so it is not subject to prevailing wage pursuant to the city charter. Resolution number 25-05 addresses the designated block downtown facade improvement program through the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan as a whole. If adopted, it would make a city council determination that the projects approved via the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan are not subject to prevailing wage pursuant to the city's charter. Staff is recommending the City Council approve a budget amendment to increase the allocation for account number 510-44410-4002 by $350,000 for the designated block downtown facade improvement program for the project located at the northwest corner of Bellflower Boulevard and Oak Street, and adopt resolution number 25-05 determining that projects approved pursuant to the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan are not subject to prevailing wage pursuant to the city charter, or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. That concludes my report, and staff's available for questions.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll just tag team on Mr. Delalonga's comments. As you know, I frequently advise that we do a belt suspender and girdle. This is the girdle to the previous item, which was 11C. The council's urgency ordinance already has, for all intents and purposes, exempted this already from prevailing wage because it's an economic opportunity plan, and so the resolution is simply an additional layer of protection to the city for making that determination.
Any questions, Victor?
Mr. DeLonga, explain to me how we received a bid for 500 and change, and yet we're now needing to go another 350,000.
If you put that, I had the same question.
Yeah.
The slide, one of the first slides, when it had 175, and then you took 2 prevailing wages and 1 non-prevailing wage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so we originally had a budget, 175.
Right.
We increased that to 300,000.
Understand.
So at that point, we went out to bid and found out we got these 3 bids from $540,000 to $680,000. In a consultation with the Public Works Director, we talked about this, and he said, well, the previous, we never accommodated for project management costs, and let's throw a contingency in there because we've experienced increasing costs on this project all through the process, and there could be this potential for increased costs with the California fires causing supply shortages and labor shortages, which would make the costs go up even higher. So that is why the cost has gone, we have that extra cost in. So we have a 20% contingency buffer and 20% construction management on an updated cost of around $600,000. So we're being very conservative.
So on the September 2024 bids that we received, we got 2 prevailing wage at 600, 1 at 680, 1 non-prevailing wage at 540. When they provided those bids, it did not include their own project management fees?
No, so Councilmember Sanchez, just real quick. So when we first put it out as an RFP, we received no bids. We got the direction to reach out. So we reached out to 2 different contractors that perform this type of work, one being one of the contractors that had just finished the Public Works yard, and then a second contractor who was somebody who had put in for the first go-around for bids for the teen center, the Oak Center. So we gave them the plans, asked them to price it out. The pricing that came back was, I believe $600,000 on one of them, and then $680,000 from the other contractor. So we had those 2 bids. And then as we were sliding into the city charter and going the direction that we were going, we reached out to the lower of those 2 bids and requested some pricing in the event that we would not have to require prevailing wage on this. So this was the first contractor that submitted the lowest bid, went back through and priced this out according to his cost at non-prevailing wage. So that is just the construction. So there's not a construction management component to that. The city typically utilizes a third party to some of the smaller stuff we can do in-house. A lot of the larger stuff, we utilize a third-party construction management team. We have several on-call agreements currently in place with firms that do this kind of work. So we would just simply select one of them. So when you're budgeting a project out, construction management is typically about 20% of what the total project cost is. So that's the number we kind of use to help Jim reestablish his budget here.
I guess my question here is, does the two prevailing wage bids, are they no longer valid at 600 and 680? Because if
Too long ago.
is that the case?
2.5 years ago.
We'd have to go back around and ask them if they were still holding that price. Doubtful.
Hear me out. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we were just having a conversation at the strategic planning session about capacity build out. For a project management firm to come in and do, for $300,000 or whatever that may be, wouldn't we just be able to hire someone for 3 years at that rate to have someone in-house to project manage? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about this incorrectly here, but I don't want to pay someone $300,000 to project manage one project.
Well, I don't necessarily know it's three. Yeah, it's
How
not
much?
3. It's 120.
120?
Yeah, I mean,
20%.
and that's just
30%.
They're asking for 850.
But they're asking for 850.
No, the project management cost is 20% of 600,000.
So where's the other
If that's going to be the bid.
170,000 coming?
I think that the cushion for increase in construction costs.
Right, normally on a project like this, you'd have your construction, we would budget a certain amount for construction. We would then budget a certain amount for your construction management with, like Mr. Gurecki said, we usually use a third-party firm for that. And the reason we usually use a third-party firm for that is because sometimes it's very specific. And sometimes we have lots of projects going at the same time, and sometimes we have no projects going, and so we'd have somebody, here. So it fluctuates. But that, part of what you're looking at is that construction management cost. The other part is exactly what you said. It's the contingency in there, because we simply don't know where this goes.
So it's a not to exceed is what you're saying?
Correct, that's exactly right. So we're asking you to allow for that contingency if we need it. Obviously, if we can get underneath that, we're gonna do that, so. It's a not to exceed.
I got an idea. So this is just asking for the money if we need it. We can, we don't, use it. But I think I'd like to see us, and I kind of agree where Mr. Sanchez is going. Maybe it's time where we have somebody in-house, have an own employee that's a project manager's experience, and maybe utilize that. I mean, I know there was a time that I think we took the project manager portion ourselves through our building official when we did the main. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did, and even in that instance, we actually paid a little extra.
We paid a little extra, but wasn't 20%.
Right.
it also wasn't a normal rate either.
Yeah, it was it's a good guy deal.
Yeah, there is a market rate for this, and it's typically about anywhere from 18 to 22% of the valuation of the project.
I know we're getting off track, but when you hire a contractor, they have their own supervision in jobs. They have their superintendent that runs the job or whatever. But is it like an extra set of suspenders, the girdle, and everything to have our guy paying 20% to make sure it got done?
Absolutely. I mean, there's more to it than that. I mean, there's
okay.
So, for instance, the Oak Center, we will probably see close to. If I'm going to put a number on it, probably close to 300 plus individual submittals, product submittals that will come in for this. It's very similar to what we have for the fire museum. Everything from a door handle to a sink faucet.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets a little burdensome, and it's on a project of that magnitude. It's certainly helpful to have someone that's dedicated to doing that work. They're not doing that and then. Writing the staff report the next day, So
I understand that on a project but this is a small remodel to me.
Right. Correct.
That's the way I look at it. But anyway, let's move on. I think that discussion's for another day.
Yeah, if the council wants us to explore that down the road, we can certainly do. I mean, we will certainly do that.
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Coops.
So when I was enthusiastic about this thing, it was at 175.
Right. I know, I think.
How's your enthusiasm now?
Not nearly as much.
I don't even remember what we're getting for this at this point.
Well, it's glass fronts and new stucco and some sort of facade across the front there. But, I mean, this is a building that we considered buying and tearing down at one point. But Serrano didn't want to do that because the prices were too high. But this is going to be $1 million project, approaching at $850.
Yeah.
I mean,
should have bought them.
This is insane. I mean, to spend $850,000 on buildings that we don't own, that are merely, it's just about appearances. I'd rather see us spend $20,000, if that, and paint them out to match the Serrano project and call it a day. But this is just ludicrous to be up to this kind of money for what we're getting. Now, help me out here, Jim. Where is this money coming from, the general fund, or is this coming from some obscure fund that we don't usually find a place for?
No, this is general fund money. It's in the Economic Development Fund.
Now, the only insight I could have, and this is just a maybe, isn't there written into the contract with Serrano that liquefied damages, that if they don't get something rented in front of that building, they have to pay the city in a certain amount of time?
Yeah, there is a provision in their development agreement for liquidated damages if they don't secure an entertainment use within a specific period of time. Sure.
Are we anywhere close to that not being, pulling the trigger on that? Are we ever urged?
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that provision was kicked in once they got their certificate of occupancy for the project.
If I recall correctly, it's a year after permit issuance.
Once their certificate was issued, so, which I think is, we're in the middle of, so.
I'm looking, you know, if we're going to spend this kind of money, I'm looking for another source of the money, you know. I could justify it if Serrano was contributing because they didn't able to perform. But hopefully they can perform. And in a perfect world, we want them to have occupants.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm sorry. I can't approve 850,000 potential on a building that we're just merely trying to make it look like the rest of the project. That just doesn't seem prudent to me.
I'd rather buy another property.
That too.
Is there, obviously you had plans to bid on it. Is there artist rendering? I've never saw artist rendering. Have you guys?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, what have we spent so far?
A long time ago.
So it is a replacement of all the mullions and windows on the
Storefronts,
building,
I think.
storefronts, restuccoing where needed, lighting, signage, canopies where PT's, Petty's, however you pronounce that, party supply is, the redo of the whole Oak Street frontage. That includes new windows and doors. For all of those, they're very outdated, so it includes all that. It includes the new wood fascia on the top of the, towards the left side of the screen. That's why we came back to you guys for direction, because it was a lot of money. And so we were concerned when it came back that way. So colored renderings, something similar to this.
But the building box itself isn't getting altered.
Well, other than the Kingdom Causes is getting altered in that they're where they have those alcoves that you can see there. This was done before we directed them to make the change to bring the windows out to the street frontage to get rid of the alcove that is there to prevent homelessness, homeless
Campers.
campers sleeping there. So that's the major construction portion of the project, other than the oak side with the fascia boards that are on the oak side. Let's see if I have a picture of that one. Yeah, so you can kind of see towards the back, towards the Serrano project, that's all kind of a new fascia that's up on the top and an awning. And then the mural is separate, and we would have brought that back to you, and we can still do that at some point in time to do a mural in that blank wall area. But this is kind of what it will look like.
Not that much different. I mean, paint and an awning. We can hire an awning guy.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't say this, but that's not exactly Best Buy kind of businesses we've got there. I mean, they're businesses and they're important to Bellflower, but we're not trying to enhance anybody's business there. We got a guy renting party supplies, we got a lady selling dresses, we got Kingdom Causes, which is a nonprofit, and I'm not sure how the guy with the ice cream staying in business, but that's another story. And then around the corner, we got a barber. I mean, I don't think this enhancement's gonna increase those businesses that are there, that they're gonna become very, very better than what they are, is what I'm trying to say. All we're doing is trying to make it match the new project. And I think we could do that, leave the windows like they are, don't bring out the Kingdom Cause, that's probably where the money's being spent there, on that alcove, unless Carol wants to spend her own money, and I doubt that. But the ice cream store, all they're doing there, that's the same entry with the purple, and Kingdom Causes has got their thing there, you just paint the top, you paint the front of Cook's building, puts turquoise on this building, I can't see $850,000.
Well, it's the commercial glass storefronts and doors.
I'm right, but leave them alone, they all work. I'm just one vote telling you what I think, but I got a conservative heart.
I'll just add one thing, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I'll just add this. At least for the two bids that were submitted at prevailing wage versus the non-prevailing wage, that's only about a 0.9 difference. For the record, I just want to say for 0.9 difference, I would go prevailing wage over not prevailing wage, just for the record on that note. But I also concur with my colleague Dan Coops here. $850,000 for this is just not prudent, in my opinion, at this point.
You build ADUs for half that price.
At 175, I was open to it. I was in on that, but 850,000, even if it's not to exceed, it doesn't float my boat here.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just going back, because we were so excited when the plans were presented to us a while back at 175. I mean, I'm just kind of curious, why did it take so long to get this to us?
It took a while for us to get the easements. At the time that we did this prior to the charter, we were required to get easements in order for us to do the work on the front of those buildings. So that was a long and arduous process to negotiate the easements. Don't ask me why, because they were getting free improvements to their building, and all they had to do was give us access to it.
It's gonna improve
But
the
it took a
property.
long time. There was one holdout that took us a long time to get to. Then we had to get the plans and specs prepared. We went out to bid. We didn't get any bids, so it took time to get those easements. That was the biggest time sink, was the easement acquisition for this project.
So if, let's say, we decide not to go forward with this project, can we get out of easily? Is there any, city attorney, is there any do we have any obligation to continue this, or?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's no obligation, and the city manager was just saying, well, what do we do with the easements? You just abandon the easements and they revert back to the private property owner. So there's no obligation to do anything with this.
Okay. Because I'm just shocked with the increase in cost from 175 to 850. I mean, it's just in a matter of about a year, right? Or less than a year?
That was from 2022. We started this process.
Wow.
Why don't we do this? Maybe I got a recommendation why don't we table this and look for more of a value look at it, value engineering, value planning or whatever, see if we can
Mr. Mayor, if I may suggest something, and it's an idea that I just came up with. So it's not cooked, it's not well thought out, but it's an idea. And staff would have to work on this. All right, here's what I got. We've all heard of the Compton Initiative, right? We've all heard of that, where community comes together, and Emmanuel Church and a bunch of other churches, they come together and they go out and repair neighborhoods and businesses and paint and all this other stuff. I could see us putting a fraction of this amount of money into the volunteer center, coordinating some kind of a community project where we all go out there and help paint and facilitate these paintings, like paint the buildings and the facade as a community, the Bellflower Initiative or whatever you want to call it, at a fraction of what that would cost. And let the churches do it, partner with Kingdom Causes. I'm just thinking outside the box here. and it would also check off one of the items that came up during our strategic planning session, community engagement and so forth. Just a thought and an idea. Like I said, it's not thought out all the way or cooked, just an idea.
Mr. Mayor,
Go right ahead.
could you put back up the picture you just had of the facades as they would be completed? Now, am I wrong in thinking, other than the Kingdom Causes building, the shapes and sizes and the entries are all going to remain the same if we were to go for the big money, the 850? Now,
Except for the alcoves, where campers can go.
That alcove, that
walls are
sounds
coming
like a $500,000 problem based on what we're doing here.
Well, yeah,
I get it. But leave the alcoves. All they've done on this picture that I can see is the ice cream store has been painted, and maybe the frames have been painted black on the windows, or the aluminum. Not much you can do with the Carroll's building because it's all brick and you paint the top on there, put new lettering up there. Cook's building, it's a painted surface. You call an awning company and put up an awning for $1,000, $1,500. The one on the corner, maybe there's some sort of a box across the top there and a new signage, but that's a turquoise paint, turquoise below the windows, leave the windows alone. Let's go around the corner. Jim's already indicated we got a mural person. That's probably not even included in the bid. But anyway, we've got a mural person.
So it's not included.
Right, thank you.
Isn't there a new storefront in the dress shop because a car went into it?
It's just repaired.
It was repaired. Okay,
All right. And then down there, you got a barber and a couple other things at the end that used to be the cleaners. But you can see that's basically the same building, just a different color. I'd like to see if staff couldn't get a bid to paint that building. Now, they may have to scour it off. It may even require sandblasting. And then get a price for the awnings, and then come back to us, and we probably come in with a bid less than $50,000.
Councilmember Coops and the rest of the council, we certainly go through that. I mean, the pricing gets high on these projects when you start messing around with exterior load-bearing walls, especially in buildings that are 70-plus years old and stuff. So you take out the whole structural component of this, and you look at something like simple paint and not changing the storefronts. Absolutely, we can get this work done at a much lower rate.
Mr. Mayor, if I might make a suggestion.
Yes.
I would suggest, to your point, that we take this back as staff. We can bring you back a conversation about the scope of work of this project as a reminder of what was proposed previously, and then if you all would like to make changes to that, of course, we can do that. And then if you want to value engineer at that point, we can do that. But I would suggest I think we have some direction at this point.
Also, there was a time that we did facade improvements downtown. I think Block Grant 1, Block Grant 2, I think is what it was, or whatever.
Right.
That was Flower.
Federal money or something.
Yeah, that was CDBG money back in the early 2000s, I believe. And that was part of that Section 108 loan that is now being paid off, that has been paid off over 20 years. So that's where that money came from.
Is there any programs like that now?
You can designate CDBG funds for that through your annual action plan and your consolidated plan, but that has to be done on an annual basis. And there is potential opportunity for that this year as that loan has been paid off.
And you may lose some of the protections you have through your charter by doing that. Remember the funding source.
It's got to be prevailing wage. I get that. So it'd just be a prevailing wage project. But if we can, again, and that's kind of money that they can pay 80%, we pay 20%, or?
It all depends on how it's structured and how we do that, but I think for the...
Why don't we look into that too?
Okay.
Maybe? Because 20% 800,000 puts us back where we originally
Well,
got.
for what we're getting, Ray, it's just hard. It's just so hard, But, no, I'm open for anything, but I hope it's a deal where all we're doing is, we're not paying it today, we got a 20-year debt on it. That's even worse.
Okay. Just one question, legal question. Was the easement very specific in terms of what kind of improvement we're going to be making?
No, it's
No.
simply a surface easement.
So we don't need to go back to them. If, let's say, we change the approach,
Well, I mean,
we
to
don't
be-
need to go back to them.
To be fair, as a charter city, Carl can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you need the easements at all. Remember, this process started long before you were having, putting the charter before the voters. If we were to start this process today, it would probably look entirely different than it did from the beginning. So if we were to go through this now, we may not even need the easements at all.
We, to the city manager's point, it may actually be legally wiser to abandon the easements at this point, even if you went to move forward with the project, because if there are public easements, which we had to do because we were a general law city, if you abandon the easements now, it's no longer the city's problem if something happens to the outside of the facade, because it still was private property rather. It's no longer public property if we abandon the easements and simply slap on paint on the outside or do whatever we want to do. So, to the city manager's point, we commenced this process a long time ago, and as you've already discovered, and as we promised in January, there are a whole host of things coming down the pipeline because we are now a charter city. This is one of them, which will require us to reevaluate certain projects that happened before November 2024 and see if that still makes sense based upon charter powers.
Oh, okay. So it might be better.
Might be
Correct.
beneficial.
Or
Okay, all right.
more streamlined. We'd like to spark knowledge.
Oh,
Mr.
love
Mayor
this.
and members of the council, also, all the property owners have seen the designs and have agreed to, in general, the designs, so we would obviously go back to them and talk to them about the budget how the budget has gone so high on this project and that we're looking at other options as well.
And in the charter city too. And I
Yeah,
can
charter
explain it away
city
a little
issues
bit.
and so forth.
So are we good to let this go mute for now?
Mr. Smoot, would we do the resolution here?
Yes. Remember,
Okay.
there's two parts to this item. Can you differentiate, Jim? Jim, can you differentiate between the two parts to this item?
Yes, I'm sorry.
The resolution.
Yes, so the first part of this would be just specific to the direction that you've basically just given us regarding the project, specifically the designated block project here on Oak Street and Bellflower Boulevard. The second part of the recommendation is for the adoption of the resolution, the girdle, as Mr. Berger called it, for the determination that programs under the Bellflower Business Assistance Plan are not prevailing wage projects.
These would normally be brought to you separately in this instance because they were somewhat related. We brought them together. So.
Gotcha. So we'll pick them apart. So I guess what the city attorney would like us to do is probably adopt resolution 2505. Number
That
two.
is my recommendation.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to forego number one and get staff to work on that, to come back with other ideas. And then my motion would be to adopt resolution number 25-05, determining that projects approved pursuant to economic development business assistance plan are not subject to prevailing wage pursuant to the city charter.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by the mayor and a second by Councilmember Coops. Call roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
You want to spend $850?
No, we do not.
I thought 175 was too much.
Are we doing the vote on both items right now?
No, we're just
Second
doing the,
resolution.
Just the first item?
just the first
Second
one.
item,
The
2505.
yeah, the motion on the floor is
Looking
simply
on
to
the-
adopt the
Yeah,
resolution.
are
That's
we-
leaving out the first
We're not
recommendation.
doing the 350.
Right, we're skipping 350, and we're voting on the second item, which is resolution, which is the use and the
Yeah.
finding of.
Staff tied. We needed to get that done, but for streamlining, they put it with this one. And so we can't mute the whole thing because we need that prevailing wage.
It is not tied to this project alone. It is not. It's
Correct.
general.
That's absolutely
This
correct.
is general.
Just general.
This is your business assistance plan. All of the economic development programs that we do, all of the conversation that we've had about the charter, about your economic, when you make a subsidy to a business and we are then forced to do prevailing wage, this is the resolution that codifies that. Again, you've adopted the ordinances that effectively codify that in the municipal code. This is simply determining one more girdle that we.
I
do
think
that
because
for.
of the amount and where it's at, I'm not comfortable right now at this point in time voting yes.
There's no
no
dollar
amount.
figure associated with the resolution itself.
So we're saying that moving forward, any project that is on private property regardless of whether we fund it or not, it will no longer be prevailing wage?
The resolution determines that your business assistance plan, all of the programs that are within your
Under the
business
assistance program.
Yeah. In this case, if you're removing the first recommendation with regard to this project itself, there's no specifics regarding a property or anything else. It's in general for your
It's just
business.
specifically our business improvement plan.
Correct. The
Okay.
plan itself.
All right. Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Santinas?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye.
Go get Wendy.
Okay, item 11C, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to pass this one off to Len to go through some options for you all based on our last conversations. And I think Mr. Campen is here if you need it for code enforcement purposes.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Just before you this evening, we have consideration and action to award contracts to both Integrated Demolition and Remediation and California Landscape for an emergency public nuisance abatement at 17046 Bellflower Boulevard. So this is somewhat of a continuation from our conversation at the last city council meeting. At that council meeting, we went through the city's process with this property owner related to the code enforcement efforts that have been going on there and the general nuisances that we have an abatement warrant to take care of. So at the meeting, what I brought before the council was the proposed cost estimates to do the work typical of our vacant lot ordinance. There was some discussion about whether or not we can install wood chips on top of existing concrete and all that. So what we decided to do is bring the item back to City Council. So that's what I have before you this evening. Briefly, I just want to go back to October of 2020, which is when the City Council approved a uniform design concept for abatement of vacant properties. Just briefly, the option that was selected and picked included the installation of wood chips for the entire property, installation of Kentucky-style fence setback 5 feet from property lines, removal of existing fencing along perimeters of the property, removal of all trash, debris, weeds, overgrown vegetation, and depending on the individual lot conditions, for properties that have hardscape up to the property line, the installation of a barrier along the edge of the property and setback lines, or removal of the hardscape and install wood chips. So back in 2020, we came up with basically a series of bullet points that we try to hit when we look at these abatements. So what we initially did, and Travis help me on this one. All right. So the base bid that we received included a demolition of the building structure, which would include the drive-through overhang at this location. The slab and the foundation were to remain in place. So this is kind of highlighted by the area that you see in blue. That's essentially the building footprint and the drive-through overhang. The base bid did not include removal of the foundation. You can see just to the left of that, the proximity, the building wall literally is almost touching the building to the north. So until we actually get in there with the structural engineer, as I explained last time, that that the demolition guy will bring on board, and we can truly assess the foundation and the slabs and how they are hopefully not one and the same with the property to the north. You just don't know at this point. but that will determine the level of remediation that we could actually do on the structure, the slabs, and the foundations. In addition to the base bid building demo, there was a bid to install the Kentucky style fence, which is, you know, noted by the red perimeter lines that you see there that wrap around Bellflower Boulevard, portion of Park Street, and then up the alleyway back to the edge of the building. So following the last council meeting, we went back to the contractor and asked for some additional pricing based on what we were discussing at that time. The first alternative that we received was, again, the demo of the structure and the drive-through overhead, leaving the slab and the foundation in place, and then having the demo contractor remove a 5-foot barrier immediately behind sidewalk all the way around the property and into the alleyway, where we could install the wood chips and the two rail fence and leave that as is.
So the asphalt staying in the alleyway where that yellow bar is.
No, correct. So the yellow bar would be the 5-foot wide setback all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea is not to touch the concrete or the asphalt. So we would end up making that cut, and you're creating that natural wood chip barrier around the perimeter. That's one of the alternatives. The second alternative, and similar to what you saw in the previous one, would be the demolition of the structure. And this time, if it ends up being feasible with the engineer, we could possibly also remove the slab and the foundation. Again, here we would do the 5-foot wide border and the Kentucky style fence, the wood chips, and a band around the building footprint. Now, in addition to the building footprint, the pricing that we have for the landscape work includes wood chipping the entire property. So wood chips on top of the concrete, the asphalt, and all that. So that's what we're including in this.
Can I stop you a minute?
Yes.
I had a vision that if we were going to demo the building and just put the Kentucky fence in around where the building was. The parking lot is heavily used. The owner has not blocked it off. It's a concrete parking lot, and it's heavily used. The property owner did hatchet all the hedges that were all there in the perimeter, and I had a vision. We'll dig out the roots and put bark on in the planters around there, and call it good. And leave it. I can't see barking this whole concrete parking lot, and unless the property owner decides to block it off. And you had if you want to slip by the red was a Kentucky side fencing, wasn't it?
Correct, and
that was,
same with the yellow band.
Okay.
The yellow band would have Kentucky file.
Yeah, all the way
Kentucky
around.
style fence all the way around.
And I just. To put Kentucky fencing all the way around, I don't know. It's a unique parcel. It's got a building with the campers in it that lighting fires. The problem's the building, not the parking lot, is what I'm saying.
I mean,
maybe we can save a lot more money not doing the whole thing.
Potentially, a couple of things. Number one, through the code enforcement process, we have had code enforcement issues associated with the entirety of the property, which was part of the abatement warrant that we received. Not to say that the council can't go wherever you'd like to go with that, but we have had code enforcement issues related to the entirety of the property. Second thing, your municipal code requirements specify that these vacant lot requirements apply to the lot, i.e.
the whole lot.
The fencing would be, at least the way they were envisioned, the fencing would be around the perimeter of the lot, which is why it was designed the way that it is. That's not to say that the council can't apply something differently. Yeah, and we should also point out, this is a private property.
Yeah, right.
And if it's being used for, someone else's parking, we have no control over that. But
there's over 10 cars in there every day, maybe 15, 20 at times. Because the parking lot doesn't flow through where the drive-through used to be. It's only the parking lot's only access from Park Street. And then you have the other portions that are only accessed from the alleyway. I
So
don't know. That's just my thoughts, guys. If you know. Curb.
Something's on top of it.
Correct. So there would, I mean, so what falls within a 5-foot band, and again, we're following the vacant lot recipe that we came up with in 2020. So what falls within that 5-foot band, if there are some small planters, within that 5 feet immediately behind the sidewalk, we would simply remove them as part of the demo project and create a uniform. Now, what you also see in the parking lot there's certainly other medians or planter areas in there that denote, the parking drive aisles and the parking stalls and all that. We would have no plans to do any kind of demolition to those. But again, I think part of the discussion a couple weeks ago, why we wanted to bring this back, was there was questions about whether or not we're going to wood chip this entire lot. And if we were to do that, I'm just bringing back a couple different alternatives in terms of pricing that we've received from the contractors that we're ready to move forward with on this.
And I would add to that, Len, part of the reason for these vacant lot requirements in the first place is to deter unauthorized access to a property. This is a perfect example because we've had unauthorized access to not only the property but to the structure itself, which is part of what's creating the nuisance in the first place that got us to code enforcement, that got us to an abatement warrant. So if we're deterring access to that, ideally, no one should be accessing the property at all. So whether there's concrete on there or not, no one should be accessing the property. That's kind of the point of the vacant lot ordinance in the first place.
Then I would think that the whole thing needs to be demoed and every hard surface gets ripped out and we do it the way it was a dirt lot. That's the way that would do it.
Which is the third alternative I have here. I just highlighted the whole area, and this is essentially a full removal of everything.
Scorched earth.
Yep.
Okay.
With the caveat, though, that obviously we still need to get the structural engineer in there to determine how far we can go with regard to the foundations and things. So.
Yep.
And I would give you this caveat. Part of
Go
the
right
reason Len recommends recommends the mulching over the hardscape is to keep weeds down. As you've seen where we've done some of these other vacant lot abatements, Blaine Avenue, I think, is an example.
Yeah, I have some
we've had
pictures,
issues with
pictures
maintenance
right
and
here.
weeds.
Yeah. So if you go through, here's a code enforcement case we had a couple years back. So this is Blaine Avenue, just north of Alondra. That's what it looked like before we had our abatement warrant. That's what it looked like the following year, once we completed the work out there with the white picket fence. And then this is 8 months later, after Mother Nature does her thing with wood chips and natural dirt underneath. So it grows really fast, it grows really out of control. And also worth noting, it cannot be, it's something that Public Works can't go in and do.
Right.
In order to enter the property again, we have to have another abatement. And we've had 3 separate abatements on this property alone, just to have us and our contractors get back in there and
clean it up.
do some, this is kind of halfway through a project following a couple months later where we did the weed removal, we still had to do the trash. And this is 2023, I think, when we just went and got our most recent abatement warrant to get in there and fix that. So you can go in, you can mow the weeds, you can pull them, you can spray them, and you get that one opportunity under the abatement to do that work. Less than a couple months later, everything comes back.
Yeah.
So where you have parcels where there's existing concrete, my recommendation would be to leave the concrete in place, just to slow down the significant weed growth that you can see around here. So that's my recommendation. But
yeah, I see that now.
What's that?
But I said I see that now.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
And it would be, like I said, it'd be a little different of a condition if I can go in there every month and we can apply,
Roundup.
weed products and pick up the trash and do all that, but we can't. So we're kind of stuck with an abatement warrant.
Yeah, Mr. Coops?
So Len, whenever you have the opportunity to get another abatement on there, then we add to the bill that's going onward?
Yep.
And the current property, I believe this property, we had no communication with the owner, and that still is the case with the Bellflower Boulevard and Park property. The owner still has never come forward.
Yeah.
Does he know what we're doing?
Yeah, I'd asked him if he's had any contact with him.
Councilmember Coops, with respect to the owner of the property at 17046 Bellflower Boulevard, we have had, after repeatedly attempting to have communications, have had almost no communications with him or any representative. We did have a brief communication with someone who represented himself as being the lawyer on behalf of the property, who requested an extension of time to pay for a previous abatement. And we granted that 60-day extension and never heard from him again. We ended up recording the lien for that previous preliminary abatement. So I have no expectation that we'll have any further communication or cooperation with ownership of this property, including any kind of weed abatement or any kind of property maintenance.
So do we need to be cognizant of the pricing of what we choose to do here? Only, apparently, he's going to have to bear the responsibility on whatever we choose to do, correct?
He will, and I think Beth might be able to speak to some very preliminary inquiries about high-density housing and things, but he has come up with various proposals for developing this property that seem to go nowhere after some very preliminary interactions with planning. So we had a Starbucks that was supposed to go in.
I heard that.
Never developed. Starbucks pulled out, and now there's chatter about another thing, but I think Beth could probably speak to where that is. But bottom line is not tearing up the asphalt and the foundation would be a cost savings, would help with the maintenance of the weeds. But regardless, we are going to place a lien on the property, and if this owner or any owner chooses to develop it, they will have to clear that debt before any development
Which gets
approvals
priority, according to Mr. Berger of last week, our last meeting. We get ahead of all the other debts.
We take priority
right
on those debts, and it would be a requirement for any development approvals if he does want to do so.
Now, Len, I'm under the impression you really won't know until you do some more investigation about that building proper to see whether or not there's some continuity between the foundations and the walls. You're still kind of hoping that it's separate, but you're not really sure of that. Does that sound right?
Correct. We do not know that until they have a structural engineer come in and look.
So really, until we get that figured out, the rest of this stuff is moot.
Well, what's not moot is the base bid we have, which was for them to come in and pull the building itself down. Whether or not we can deal with the foundation and the slab will be something that the structural engineer has to determine. So the building comes down either way.
Don't we have building records that would show when this building was built in comparison to the building to the north of it that would indicate whether or not they're two separate entities or not?
We may, and that would be something that the interior demolition people would pull records of. They would do all their homework to go through that and determine if there's any, like you said, continuity between the structures and everything.
We went through this before on the cigar lounge. Remember, half that building was, I think you were here at that time.
Correct.
When half the building was part of the building to the south of it.
And again, sometimes it's just, when you have older downtowns like this, you know, you got to be very careful what worms you're, you know, trying to dig up. You know,
So in a perfect world, we could leave the concrete as it is, but have an area around the perimeter that would be the landscape area. One of the concerns I have is, and you've pointed it out here, put back up your drawing of the plot plan, there you go. So you can see this alley here, about a third of it is gonna go away because we're gonna have a fence along there. Does that sound right? You not have the
correct.
full
Yeah,
use
so
of the
that-
alley
that-
anymore.
That alley is privately owned?
Right, the other,
So-
they all share that alley. The people over here, that's Mr. Van Matron's property, he owns half that, the other part of it that is not shown. And the funeral home or the Living Waters, he owns that part behind the other area here. That's all private property. And so if we put a fence up here, it's gonna make this area very difficult to pass through.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, so
I don't think you can. Isn't there easement rights? It's been open so long?
yeah, so if you look on the very top of the building there, you can see that mast just on the outside. That's actually an Edison pole and a transformer that's kind of right there. That is probably about the narrowest point in that alleyway. Traffic functions perfectly fine.
Okay.
Through there. But I could certainly pull the fencing back a little bit.
Cheat it back.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want me to take it just to the edge of the concrete,
Cheat it back a little bit.
I think that would be more prudent.
that would be easy for
Go
us
for
to
aesthetics. Yeah. Then you don't disturb the asphalts there.
So then the concrete would remain as you see it. We're not putting wood chips on the concrete, correct?
Well, the pricing I have from California Landscape is to install wood chips on the entire area. But
What
it's
happens, now I brought this up before, when you have a rain and wood chips float,
you have a
what does that mean? That they're gonna float away or go into the street?
They
or-
won't. No, where it's open ended, you put the fabric swaddles there. They hold everything in place.
A fabric swaddle, you said?
Swaddles. Yeah, they're the fabric tubes that you'll see on hillsides that
Right.
they use for erosion.
Okay.
You can basically spike those into the ground, and they'll retain the wood chips. And then in areas where we have existing planters and all that, that would serve as the barrier or the holding point for it. So we would just simply go through there and, you know, where there are openings where it could, you know, potentially leave the parcel and get onto the either the alleyway or the sidewalk, we would do everything we can to restrict it from moving.
Now, you suggested that we use a two-rail white fence, not unlike you pictured on the Blaine Street property, correct?
Let me see. Blaine
That's what
is
That one. Do you want to use that?
so
that
yeah,
fence?
it's that fence on the side.
Kentucky Rail.
On the side, you're not on the current, not all the way around the perimeter.
No, it would be that two-rail Kentucky style fence around the entire perimeter. So Bellflower Boulevard, Park Street, and then up along the alleyway.
Be just like the Somerset property across from Courtesy Glass on Woodruff.
Wouldn't it make more sense to have the gold-type fencing on that property?
No, you don't want to look at it like
The
it.
gold.
The wrought
oh,
iron, the
gold
black wrought
property?
iron,
That's
6
expen-
foot.
That's expensive.
That's like a 6-foot wrought iron.
That's like jail.
And that's not in accordance with our vacancy or property ordinance. This is what's required, right?
Yeah, so the vacant lot
Yeah, vacant lot.
ordinance that we put together calls out the two-rail Kentucky style fence. Again, that was the design that back in 2020 that the
How were the
council-
golds then needed to put up at what they're suggesting?
We have a couple of things. You have, number one, you have your municipal code requirements for vacant lot and ordinances. Ideally, in these situations, the private property owner is taking care of their own property, so we don't wind up in this situation in the first place.
Okay.
When they do that, they're required to come to Beth's team and me for approvals. They submit a landscaping plan effectively to us to comply with the requirements of the municipal code, and it allows for certain types of fencing, including Kentucky fencing. Layer on top of that, that the city council has adopted standards for when we go do these. When there's an abatement to a vacant lot and we go
Okay.
do this,
Oh, I get it.
you've adopted standards to say, when we do this, this is the standard that we want to do it to. Basically, you all have submitted a landscaping plan to us.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
requires
Next
textile
step.
fencing.
Yeah.
I said, my thought was, I was not concerned about the pricing based on the abandonment of the property and the responsible party.
I know.
But if
Mr. Mayor,
that's what
you remember it.
we have dictated, then we, but anyway, those are my questions, and I think you answered it. I think we need to consider moving that alley fence back a few feet, just because.
Let's hear what Mayor Pro Tem Santa Ynez has to say.
Thank you, Mayor.
If he remembers.
If I remember the question. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
do.
about to ask about that slide, so thank you for asking that question. So can you bring back the previous slide with the yellow?
Red, yellow?
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So the plan here is to create a 5-foot buffer, so to speak, take out the concrete along this perimeter.
Yep, you take it right
Okay.
to native soil, install the fencing within that, and then wood chip that native soil area.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the red one, the red line,
That's the base bid that we'd received that I took
Okay.
to council last week, which was just the removal of, or the demolition of the building itself, and then you, installing the Kentucky-style fence, which was not going to be done inside a 5-foot wide perimeter area, but rather we would simply have, had the contractor core or go through the concrete.
on this concrete here.
Yeah, for the
Right
post.
next to the planters. These are the planters, right?
They're gonna come out.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
in some areas, we would plant in the planter, where a post had to be, if there was concrete or asphalt,
Mhm.
they would accord that area out and put the post in there.
So if they can put the post along the planters, would they do that? Yeah, on these planters here,
Inside.
inside the planter.
Mm-hmm. But inside the planter is immediately at the back of public sidewalk.
Okay,
So we've,
okay.
Gotta have a-
the idea has always been to kind of create somewhat of a
buffer.
setback.
Yeah, okay.
Keep in mind, those are also raised planters, so it might look a little funny to have your
Okay,
fence
all right,
going.
okay. Will there be a gate here somewhere?
We most likely would install a gate just for ease of access.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only one.
But there will not be any gate here. So that means that this parking will not be used anymore. Once we have the Kentucky fencing, this will be enclosed already. So the gate will be somewhere here or here, or?
I can put the gate anywhere.
Anywhere.
So, yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
the gates.
Just so you know, that center parking lot
Mhm.
doesn't circulate anything. It's one
it's-
one egress.
It's blocked here.
Yeah,
Block,
it's
yes.
Yeah, it's
in and
blocked.
out right there by the,
Mhm.
off of Park Avenue.
Okay. And what is our timeline? If we approve this tonight, what is your timeline to get this done?
I'm sorry,
What is timeline?
Not too far. I mean, essentially, I believe the contractor said that they would probably need a week with their structural engineer person to figure out and determine what can and cannot be done with the slab and the foundation work there. There's also a process that they have to go through with AQMD to do the permits for the lead and asbestos removal. That's typically an 8 to 10 day process. Because we have the abatement warrant itself, it usually speeds that up for us. So assuming that we get that stuff done relatively quick, and then we get them signed and under the dotted line of these contracts, let's just say in a matter of a week or two, and they're
Mhm.
able to get all their insurance documents to us, I can have this probably underway in the next 4 to 5 weeks. So-
Okay.
Add to that, we have the outside deadline of the abatement warrant itself.
Okay, okay,
It was a
good.
90-day
And you explained very clearly in terms of the use of the mulch, because I remember that clearly mulch is basically to prevent the growth of weeds. But it doesn't, well, it slows down the growth of weeds. It doesn't prevent. I can picture using the mulch here because if everything here is mulch, then no one will even attempt to park at all. Most likely not. But if it's left as concrete, then there's going to be some kind of temptation for someone to trespass and park. So I'm kind of thinking about that. But if there's a gate, If there's a
Fence will
gate.
stop it.
Look at just
Yeah.
like what happened in Blaine. If you remember Blaine, there was a gate, and somebody just broke into the chain and then put some stuff in there.
With the Kentucky fencing, I could just easily walk over it, more or less, right?
Yes.
So, once it's fenced off, what deters anyone from just walking over it and popping up a tent? Because now it's private property, right? It's still private property. So,
Correct.
public safety, I assume, can access it, yes, but how do you deter that? Or how do we deter that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Councilmember Morris, ironically, properties that are easily accessible tend to attract trespassers less. It's when you have walls that people can't see, structures that you don't know if someone's inside them, and even at times the wrought iron, 6 foot tall, people go in there and law enforcement can't get in there to get them out. And they find a way to get in. Some people are very resourceful.
Okay.
And so what we have found is that having this Kentucky fencing that you're seeing there, while anyone can hop over it, that means anyone can hop over it, including police.
Okay.
To the extent that we need a letter of agency
Yes.
from the property owner, while the property owner has not been as cooperative as possible, I think this will certainly get his attention. I think a letter of agency allowing law enforcement to go on when it's clearly an act of trespassing is happening in real time can happen as well. Further exigent circumstances would allow law enforcement to engage people who are doing something that could affect public safety and public health.
Okay.
Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of give you my thoughts on this, I agree with the demo of the building. The idea of moving the fence in on the east side and bringing that inward makes total sense. Len's or Mr. Gorecki's direction on how he's going to contain the chips in the lot. If it were to rain, it's a viable option. I think that works. The idea of fencing it and having a gate and opens, I think that works as well. My one hesitation here is on the language for, well, before I say this, I want to be very clear. My understanding is that there is a cost recovery in all abatement costs. That includes staff time, that includes everything from A through Z, all the work to handle a public nuisance. So with that said, the language of it not being a prevailing wage, not be needed, I think that's one thing that I disagree on. I think this should be prevailing wage. Thankfully, the bids that have come in are prevailing wage bids. So for that purpose, I would be okay with supporting this because they've come in at prevailing wage.
Why? What do we do a charter city for?
It's the type of work. It's the type of work that we're doing here, and the end goal.
Mayor, but the property is not owned by the city, not controlled by the city. So which was basically what we just adopted.
No, I
Right.
understand.
So
But there's demolition involved. There is rehabilitation. There's construction work related in a way. There's demoing involved. So my understanding is this should be prevailing wage. This is not economic development.
Back to the previous staff report we did on the amendment to the public works work. That last section in there, that carves out that if work is being done under an emergency order for abatement, then it could be deemed as non-prevailing wage. So that's how that's written in.
Could be. Doesn't have to be.
No, it's deemed that it is not subject to prevailing wage under that ordinance.
I disagree with that, but I'm just one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So well, just as an FYI, the pricing that we have on this right now
Is a prevailing
is all done at prevailing wage.
I understand that. That's
Okay.
why for this one item, I would be okay with moving forward with this, but I think that when we're doing this kind of work, it should be at prevailing wage when we're doing the public nuisance items like these.
Let me just redo this. So we're going to remove concrete just for the setback only to the Kentucky fence. Kentucky fence is gonna get core drilled for the post. And we're gonna move the east side back past, the alley or wherever it works. And take out as much foundation as possible over this. That's phase 2 of the contract, right? The
Yeah,
foundation portion of
so
it.
my recommendation is that under the base bid would be for the demolition of the building and leave the slab and the foundation in place.
Yep.
And then go with the first alternative, which was the additional cost to create that 5-foot band that you see with the idea of up on the east end of the alleyway. We would slide it so it's inside of the asphalt. But essentially, we wouldn't
I get
touch
it.
the
No, I
asphalt.
understand.
And then we would install the Kentucky-style fence within that band area we create. And then that band area would be wood chipped, as well as the entire parking lot would also be wood
Over the
chipped.
top of the concrete.
On top of the
Okay, got
concrete,
it.
correct.
And possibly a gate or whatever's needed over here.
Yeah,
for-
no gate
for
there.
Edith. No
Yeah.
gate? Okay, just
We
straight
can-
fence. Okay, and probably put the gate over on this side where it's torn up more, if it gets down. Okay.
At some point, there will need to be access to, we can just at some point figure out which driveway we want to do the gate at.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, so the recommendation is the base bid plus alternative 1.
That would be my
For
recommendation.
demolition, and then option 2 for landscaping.
Mhm.
Because we're gonna be taking out 5-foot wide anyway.
Correct. So the pricing comes down a little bit on the install of the fence, because,
Does the pricing include the mulch?
yes, the pricing does include the mulch that you
Okay,
see there.
all right.
I'll make a motion for 11C to recommend all 3 recommendations, 1, 2, and 3. Discuss, oh no, not 1, just the 2 and 3.
And that's what Len's recommendation is?
Yours is just 1? I thought it was 2 and 3 go together as phase 1 and phase 2.
No, you have the base bid that we already brought to the council, which is the demo. So
Okay.
if you go back up here,
Oh, this is enhanced, okay.
yeah, so we have the base bid cost, which is the installation of the fence and the demo of the building. What the council's, as I understand it, directing me to do is add in the first alternative pricing, alternative number 1 pricing, which would also be the additional work to create the 5-foot band around the perimeter with the note that I don't include the asphalt on the east side.
Got it.
And then the other 2 alternatives were slab removal, parking lot removal. And that's
Yeah.
not what I
Okay,
would
we're not doing
recommend
that,
doing.
yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion as discussed.
Mr. Mayor.
Because it's not in writing.
Wow.
It's not in writing.
Does the clerk remember all those options? Yes?
We will listen back if we need to.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Mayor, could we strike the language on page 4 stating following the approval of the amendment to the BMC, staff will reach out to the individual contractors and request pricing adjustments based on the amended BMC language? The bid came in at prevailing wage. I'm hopeful that we could keep it that way.
Yeah, I'm against the prevailing wage. I'll just say it right now.
So the urgency ordinance and the ordinance you all adopted, just for clarity's sake, presumes that a project of this nature is not subject to prevailing wage. If the council wants to make it subject to prevailing wage, you certainly have that authority to do that.
Does anybody up here want to make prevailing wage on this?
Nope.
I don't. Yeah, the ones that have been
Yeah, this is
presented.
the bid. It's a prevailing wage. So can we keep it that way?
But that's going to be another bid, right?
Yeah, the pricing that you see before you right
Yeah.
now is inclusive of prevailing wage. We've been working on this for quite a few weeks. So it's our standard ask was make sure that they
Right.
charge prevailing wage. So with the adoption of the ordinance earlier this evening and where we're at right now, we would go back to the contractors, the ones that we have and we're ready to go, and just ask them to revise their pricing and eliminate the prevailing wage
Got it.
rates that they put
Okay,
in.
that's what I remember.
Does it change it 10%, 15%? I don't know, but we would certainly go back and ask them to do it because, like I said, under the ordinance, it's an abatement of an emergency situation and it's not subject to prevailing wage. But like Ryan and city attorney mentioned, if the council chooses that you want us to do it at prevailing wage, it's certainly, we already have the pricing, it's one less step I have to go through.
Right. So you would be a little bit, you're ahead of the curve right now. You can move forward with this bid as is.
Yes,
Yes.
ahead of the curb to start the process of
In
getting
terms
the
of time.
contract
Start the
done with
process.
somebody.
Gets our approval.
Right.
It's going with alternative one, right?
No, this could, it's alternative. They're all included in there, 2 and 3. So the pricing's already there for at prevailing wage.
And Mayor, your motion is without prevailing wage?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seconded the motion.
Got a motion on the floor by myself and a second by Councilmember Coops. Roll call.
Councilmember Morse? Councilmember,
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on. Aye. I apologize.
thank you. Councilmember Sanchez?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Santinas?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye. Well, we're getting to the end, guys. Consent calendar, item 12, any recusals or conflicts, colleagues? Any items? Any items that anybody wants special treatment or pulled or explained? I guess not.
Move the consent calendar.
There we go.
Second?
Got a motion on the floor for the consent calendar's approval and a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Call roll.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Santinas?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Dutton?
Aye. Okay, council reports. Mrs. Morse, do you have anything?
I do not.
What about Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Recently, I have continued to receive ongoing complaints about the public nuisance created by the bar at the corner of Artesia and Virginia. My colleagues may have heard complaints as well. Most recently, this weekend, I received a number of complaints related to the noise and other issues late at night. I know this is an ongoing enforcement case, so I cannot really speak to much details regarding this item, but I want to acknowledge the concerns that I have been hearing and remind our staff that this is a priority issue that continues to have significant impacts on the neighborhoods and the residents in that area. I understand it can be frustrating to deal with these issues, and please continue to contact us and bring them to our attention. We appreciate your diligence and look forward to continuing to work with you to improve our neighborhood. Just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. That is a struggling area.
It is.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Sonny Santanes?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to congratulate and thank former Mayor Dan Coops. If you were not at the outgoing mayor ceremony tonight, it was a wonderful, very lighthearted outgoing mayor ceremony. Again, thank you for your service, Dan. Also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the request City Council to adjourn this meeting in memory of Deacon Rafael Ralph Riera. Rafael Ralph Riera is a beloved husband, father, and deacon. Was born on July 18, 1938 in Camagüey, Cuba, to Rafael Riera and Francisca Aleda Riera. He passed away on December 14, 2024, at the age of 86. Ralph attended technical schools in Cuba before moving to Los Angeles in 1969. He worked for GT and Verizon for a total of 32 years, retiring in 2001. His dedication to his work in community was evident throughout his life. In addition to his career, Ralph was dedicated to his faith. He was ordained a deacon of the Catholic Church on June 13, 1998, and served with distinction at Holy Innocents Church in Long Beach, St. Raymond Church in Downey, and St. Bernard's Church in Bellflower, where I've known him for quite some time. His spiritual guidance left a lasting impact on those he served. Ralph married Aglay Moya on February 16, 1963, and together they shared nearly 62 years of love and companionship. He was a proud father to Rafael Jr., who predeceased him, and Robert Bobby, and cherished grandfather to Holland Marie, Willow Grace, and Rafael Lionel. Ralph will be remembered as a truly remarkable person. His kindness, smile, and sense of humor throughout brought joy to all who knew him. His guidance and love will live on the hearts of his family and all who were fortunate to know him. Our deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences go to the Riera family. And again, Mayor, I'd like to have this meeting
Okay.
adjourned in his memory.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll do that at the close of the meeting. Also, I would like to congratulate Councilmember Coops for his year as mayor, and we had his outgoing mayor reception earlier before the meeting, and it showed how many people that really believe in Dan, and gave him a lot of recognition tonight, and he does have a following, and I think they just come to hear his jokes because he is entertaining and had a good time. Just thanks again, Mayor. And with that said, we're gonna.
Hey, I got comment.
Okay. Oh, I forgot you.
Yeah, how soon you forget.
My apologies. Mr. Coops, any comments?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for being present for the reception tonight, and I appreciate everyone that showed up to give books to Ramona School and give me some presentations. As I said earlier, I went to Ramona School. I always have a soft part of my heart for that school and their library, because there are so many kids there that need help learning, and reading was always the basis for my ability to learn. And second of all, I want to acknowledge this is the last meeting that Travis Sayas will be with us, Sayas, and he has done a wonderful job working with us as a city council. He's been a real asset to our community and to our staff here, and we wish him every good well. I mentioned that he's going to work for a city that started with S and ended as D. I thought that was Santo Domingo, but it's really San Diego. No, it's San Dimas.
Where is San Domingo?
I knew it had started with S and ended with D, but we wish you every good experience in your growth as an assistant city manager. And I know we haven't seen the last of you as we, what I learned when I got on city council many years ago is that there's a whole cadre of people that know each other throughout the cities, and they know of you, and they know, and you promote, and you know, and you talk about each other in positive ways. And at your young age and what you've achieved, you will not go unnoticed as you pursue the idea of becoming an official city manager. So thank you for your time spent with us, and just want to acknowledge your last meeting and wish you very well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Coops.
Last regular meeting. He'll be here in the morning, and I was given the Monday off. I was trying to do that city attorney, but he wants to come back from Santa Clarita, so that's okay.
Well, we're going to recess to closed session. Let the record reflect that all council members are present. And Mr. Smoot, closed session items.
You're throwing me off tonight.
Yeah.
You have
backwards.
one closed session item, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, 2 cases under that.
Yeah. Any refusals or conflicts, colleagues?
None, everybody's
Not
good?
that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you don't know what it is. All right. We are recessed.